Song Xiaoyu, are you crazy? Lin Shuyuan is waiting for you. Su Ting's hand tightly gripped the strap of my school bag. The classroom was silent, and all the students turned to look at us. I slowly closed my math workbook and looked up to meet her face, contorted with anger. So what? I asked calmly. So what? He asked you to meet him on the rooftop, an opportunity every girl in the school dreams of, and you're sitting here doing problems. I glanced at my watch. There were 20 minutes left until evening study hall, enough time to deal with this trouble. Su Ting, I stood up, looking directly into her eyes. Since you care so much, why don't you go yourself? She let go of my hand and took half a step back. What? What do you mean? Just what I said. Haven't you always liked Lin Shuyuan? Ever since the first year of high school, every time I brought him water, you'd rush to help me carry it. Every time I wrote him a love letter, you'd kindly help me revise it. Every time we went on a date, you're talking nonsense. Su Ting's face turned ashen, but her voice faltered. I'm your best friend. I was helping you. Helping me. I sneered, pulling a pink envelope from my school bag. Then why did I find this in my drawer? A letter to Lin Shuyuan, signed with my name, but in your handwriting. A gasp rippled through the classroom. Su Ting's face flushed from pale to red. Last week, when I was sick and took leave, you took the opportunity to steal pages from my notebook and imitate my handwriting to write him love letters. I advanced. Too bad you forgot. I never use sickening sign-offs like forever yours, Xiaoyu. A flicker of panic crossed Su Ting's eyes, but she quickly straightened her back. So what if I like him? A bookworm like you doesn't deserve him. If it weren't for my advice, he wouldn't even give you a second glance. Finally, the truth comes out. You thought I didn't know. Every time you helped me ask him out, you'd turn around and tell him how annoying I am. The gifts you sent for me ended up in your bag. Even the messages I sent him, you reviewed them first. A best friend like that, Song Xiaoyu, can't afford. Su Ting suddenly grabbed my wrist. You can't leave. Lin Shuyuan is still waiting for you on the rooftop. You'll embarrass him like this. I shook off her hand with enough force to make her stumble. Then please tell him. I deliberately raised my voice. Song Xiaoyu, starting today, am done playing along. The moment I walked out of the classroom door, I heard Su Ting's hysterical scream and the loud crash of something hitting the wall. I didn't look back, heading straight for the math office, clutching the provincial competition registration form in my hand. It wasn't until I turned the corner of the hallway that I allowed myself to stop. I raised my trembling hand and stared at my smooth palm. No needle marks from chemotherapy. No traces of illness. I have truly been reborn, back to the first week of my third year of high school, back to the turning point where my life completely derailed. In my past life, I should have been on the rooftop at this moment, blushing as I accepted Lin Shuyuan's offer to date, unaware that it was just a joke he made with Su Ting. After that, I would give up my chance at the competition for him, fail my college entrance exams, follow him to a third-rate university, and finally be diagnosed with late-stage lung cancer at the age of 25, dying alone in the hospital. And Su Ting, my best friend, would be arm in arm with Lin Shuyuan at my funeral, wearing the engagement ring that should have been mine. This time it's different. The door to the math office was ajar. Just as I was about to knock, I heard a familiar male voice from inside. Mr. Jun, I believe Song Xiaoyu is fully capable of participating in the provincial competition. Her problem-solving approach is very unique. That was Zhou Mingyuan's voice, the top student in our grade. In my past life, I barely spoke to him. How could he? She has indeed been performing exceptionally well recently, Mr. Jun mused, but given her previously average grades, suddenly jumping ahead to compete, on last week's quiz, she was the only one in the entire class who solved the last question, which was beyond the syllabus. Zhou Mingyuan's voice was firm, and she used a method none of us have learned yet. That problem was a solution I only learned in university in my past life. All right. Since you think so highly of her, Mr. Jun finally relented. Have her fill out the registration form and submit it to me tomorrow. I quickly retreated a few steps, hiding behind the corner. Zhou Mingyuan pushed the door open, his tall and thin figure casting a long shadow under the corridor lights. He suddenly stopped and turned his head towards me, his eyes behind his glasses narrowing slightly. I held my breath, not daring to move until his footsteps faded away. This wasn't right. In my past life, Zhou Mingyuan was a solitary, aloof top student who never meddled in others' affairs. Why would he speak up for me? Could he also? Shaking my head to dismiss the absurd thought, I rearranged my expression and walked towards the math office. Regardless, in this life, I would seize every opportunity. As for Su Ting and Lin Shuyuan, I let out a cold laugh and pushed open the office door. The show had only just begun. Next, We invite Student Union President Lin Shouyuan to give the opening speech. As soon as the principal's voice fell, the girls on the playground erupted in suppressed cheers. I stood in the middle of the formation, watching that familiar figure stride confidently onto the podium. Lin Shouyuan scanned the sports field with a smile, and wherever his gaze fell, a small commotion arose. Respected teachers, dear classmates, in my past life, I would have my heart race, my palms sweat, and my eyes glued to him at this moment, but now, I watched him calmly, as if observing an ordinary campus scene. Strangely, I could even calmly analyze his public speaking skills. His pace was well controlled, but his gestures were too deliberate. The content was positive, yet lacked genuine thought. Let us pursue excellence together in the new semester. Thank you all. Thunderous applause erupted. I clapped along a couple of times, then lowered my head to continue pondering the math problem I hadn't finished that morning. Xiaoyu, Su Ting squeezed her way to my side. At some point, her eyes still fixed on Lin Shouyuan on the stage. He's so handsome today, isn't he? He's alright, I guess, I replied casually, subtly creating a little distance. Su Ting suddenly turned her head, as if she had heard something incredible. SOSO, you used to be, the past is the past, I interrupted her, offering a perfunctory smile. We're about to dismiss, and the next class is with the old teacher. Don't be late. After speaking, I quickly walked towards the teaching building, not giving her a chance to continue the topic. Su Ting's hurried footsteps came from behind, and she jogged to catch up with me. Wait for me. She affectionately linked her arm with mine, and I suppressed the urge to shake her off. By the way, I heard Lin Shouyuan will be eating at the small cafeteria today. Shall we go together? I stopped and turned to look at her. If you want to go, then go. I'm going to the library. Su Ting's expression froze. You really don't like him anymore. It's the third year of high school, and studying is important, I said lightly, while noticing a flicker of panic in her eyes. Interesting. In my past life, I never doubted Su Ting's motives, but now I see it clearly. She cares more about Lin Shouyuan than I do, yet she kept urging me to pursue him. Why? The answer is obvious. She needed a cover, an excuse to approach Lin Shouyuan openly without being targeted by other girls, and I am that perfect shield. The morning classes were uneventful. The Chinese teacher lectured on topics repeated for 3 years, and the English words I could spell with my eyes closed. In my past life, I always used these classes to write notes to Lin Shouyuan or daydream. Now, I use the time to review advanced mathematics. Class, said our homeroom teacher, Ms. Lee, as she entered the classroom and tapped on the podium. I have an important announcement. Registration for this year's National High School Mathematics League has begun, and we have 2 spots for our class. I suddenly looked up, my pen drawing a long line across the paper. In my past life, obsessed with Lin Shouyuan, I never considered participating in competitions. It wasn't until I wanted to pursue postgraduate studies in my second year of university that I deeply regretted it. How many points could a provincial competition award add? Students interested. Teacher, I'll sign up. I was the first to raise my hand. The classroom fell silent instantly. All eyes on me. Ms. Lee adjusted her glasses, seemingly doubting what she heard. Song. Xiaoyu, you want to sign up for the math competition? Yes, my voice was clear. Teacher Lee hesitated. This competition is very difficult. In previous years, it was students like Zhou Mingyuan. I want to try, I insisted, my gaze firm. Teacher Lee finally nodded and wrote my name on the list. I felt the surprised gazes of the surrounding classmates, especially Su Ting, who stared at me with wide eyes as if she were seeing me for the first time. Even more surprisingly, Zhou Mingyuan, who was sitting in the front row, turned his head. His eyes behind his glasses held a hint of curiosity. Our eyes met, and he quickly turned back, but I had already seen the surprise flash in his eyes. The dismissal bell rang, and I packed my books, ready to head to the library. As soon as I stepped out of the classroom, Su Ting caught up with me. Xiaoyu, wait, she panted, blocking my path. What's gotten into you lately? Suddenly wanting to participate in the math competition. Don't you hate math? Most people change. I walked past her, continuing forward. Su Ting unyieldingly followed. What about lunch then? Aren't we going to the small cafeteria anymore? I said. I'm going to the library. I stopped and looked her in the eye. Su Ting, why do you care so much whether I go to see Lin Shouyuan? She took half a step back as if burned. I'm just worried about you. Oh really? I smiled meaningfully. Then thank you for your concern. But right now I'm more concerned about my math grade. After speaking, I turned and left, leaving Su Ting standing there, her expression shifting between anger and uncertainty. The library was so quiet you could hear pages turning. I found a seat in a corner and spread out my math materials. In my past life, I had to cram advanced mathematics for postgraduate entrance exams, and now that knowledge flooded back into my mind like a tide. This problem can be solved using the Lagrange mean value theorem. A voice suddenly sounded in my ear. Startling me, I looked up and saw Zhou Mingyuan standing beside me, pointing at the problem I was halfway through solving. I know, I answered subconsciously, then realized my tone might have been too blunt. Thanks for the reminder. Zhou Mingyuan showed no intention of leaving. He hesitated for a moment and then sat down opposite me. Your problem-solving methods have been quite unique lately. My heart skipped a beat, he noticed. Indeed, I had used some methods not yet taught in high school. For my last few math assignments, just thought of them, I replied vaguely, lowering my head to continue with the problems. Zhou Mingyuan was silent for a moment, then suddenly took a thick book from his backpack and pushed it towards me. This might be helpful. I glanced at the cover, Advanced Mathematics Competition Essentials. This book was quite famous among university students. How did he, a high school student, have it? Thank you, but I was about to decline when I saw him open the title page, which bore the official stamp of the city library. It's borrowed, he explained briefly. It's not due until next month. I hesitated for a moment, but still took the book. Then, thank you. I'll return it to you as soon as I'm done. Zhou Mingyuan nodded and got up to leave. After taking 2 steps, he turned back. The competition class is tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. in room 302 of the mathematics building. I was stunned. How did you know I was going to participate? The school wide registration list is posted on the notice board of the Academic Affairs office. He pushed his glasses up. You are the only female student from the liberal arts class. Watching his retreating back, I fell into thought. Was Zhou Mingyuan this enthusiastic in my previous life? I remember him as a loner, a top student who barely communicated with anyone. Shaking my head, I continued to immerse myself in a sea of problems. Time flew by, and when I looked up, the sun was already setting. Outside the window on the way home, I deliberately detoured past the small supermarket and bought the peanuts my dad liked the most. In my previous life, I was too ignorant, always complaining about my dad smoking and drinking, unaware that those habits were due to immense work pressure. It wasn't until he passed away from a sudden heart attack that I regretted it deeply. Pushing open the door, the aroma of food wafted towards me. Mom was busy in the kitchen, and Dad was sitting on the sofa, reading the newspaper. This scene made my nose sting. Dad, I'm back. I placed the peanuts on the coffee table. Brought these for you. The sun must have risen in the west, Dad said, putting down his newspaper in surprise. What do you mean? I can't even treat you to a meal. I feigned anger, but my heart was warmed. While Dad was in the restroom, I secretly checked his coat pocket. Sure enough, I felt a hard box. When I took it out, it was an unopened pack of cigarettes. I hesitated for a moment, then put it back as it was. Simply confiscating them wouldn't work. I needed to find a way to help him relieve stress. During dinner, I brought up the topic of participating in the math competition. Math competition? Dad's chopsticks paused mid-air. Don't you hate math the most? I just had a sudden realization. I pushed the rice around with my chopsticks. By the way, Dad, a new swimming pool just opened near our school, and I heard they have great deals on memberships. Swimming? Dad looked utterly bewildered. Yeah, you're always complaining about your back hurting, right? Swimming is the best for that, I said casually, and I heard it's really effective for stress relief, much better than smoking. Dad's expression shifted from surprise to embarrassment, and finally to a helpless smile. You little rascal, when did you start telling me what to do? I will. I stuck out my tongue at him, and I'm going to make sure you go at least twice a week. Mom, standing by, laughed heartily. Old song. Your daughter has grown up. Looking at my parents' smiling faces, my eyes welled up. This time, I was determined to protect our family's happiness. Lying in bed that night, I reflected on the day's events, Lin Shuyuan's speech, Su Ting's unusual reaction, Zhou Mingyuan's unexpected help, and my parents' relieved smiles. Everything was different from my past life. I turned over and switched on the bedside lamp, opening the book Zhou Mingyuan had lent me. On the inside of the cover, there was a small inscription, City Library Borrowing Record, Last Borrower, Zhou Mingyuan, borrowed on November last year. In other words, he had this book for over half a year. A thought suddenly struck me. Had he started preparing for the math competition long ago? Then why would he lend me such important material? With this question, I drifted off to sleep. In my dream, I returned to that cold hospital room from my past life, but this time, what I held tightly in my hand was no longer a photo of Lin Shuyuan, but a university acceptance Letter Classroom 302 in the math building was more crowded than I had imagined. I hesitated at the doorway. More than 20 students were already seated inside, all top science students, with only a scattering of girls. Excuse me, a deep voice came from behind me. I stepped aside, and Zhou Mingyuan brushed past my shoulder into the classroom. He was wearing a dark blue shirt today, and there was a faint scent of ink about him, unlike the boys who doused themselves in pungent cologne. Song. Xiaoyu, Teacher Jing looked up from the podium, two sharp gazes piercing from behind his thick glasses. You actually came. A few chuckles rippled through the classroom. My face felt a little hot, but I still straightened my back and walked in. Finding a seat by the window, Zhou Mingyuan sat 2 rows away from me, flipping through a foreign language book, seemingly uninterested in anything around him. Quiet, Teacher Jing tapped the blackboard. This is our first training session, so let's start with a short test. He handed out a stack of test papers. I took one and glanced at it, my heart sinking. 10 major problems. Not a single one was a standard question type, and the last 3 even involved university-level content. 2 hours, starting now. The only sound in the classroom was the rustling of pen tips on paper. I took a deep breath and started tackling the first question. The first 5 questions went smoothly, but I got stuck on the 6th. It was a spatial geometry problem that required knowledge of vectors. I bit on my pen cap, and suddenly had an epiphany. I could simplify the problem using coordinate system transformation. This was a method I learned in my university math class in my previous life. I quickly started calculating on my scratch paper, and the more I wrote, the smoother it became. Time's up, hand in your papers. I was almost the last one to hand in my paper. Teacher Jing began grading on the spot, and a tense atmosphere filled the classroom. He graded quickly, occasionally making a tisk sound or shaking his head. Zhou Mingyuan, 92 points. Li Yan, 85 points. He called out names and scores one by one. Song Xiaoyu. He paused for a moment, pushed up his glasses, and looked at my test paper carefully again. 78 points. He finally announced, you didn't do the last 2 questions, but the solutions for the first 8 were very unique. I breathed a sigh of relief. This score was above average in the class. At least it proved I wasn't just here to make up the numbers, especially question 6. Teacher Jing continued. Only 2 students in the entire class used the coordinate transformation method. One was Zhou Mingyuan, and the other, his gaze fell on me, and the entire class turned their heads to look at me in unison, was Song Xiaoyu. My face instantly burned. Zhou Mingyuan also turned his head, a flicker of surprise in his eyes behind his glasses. However, Teacher Jing suddenly changed tack. While this method is ingenious, it's beyond the high school curriculum. You might lose points on the formal exam. I shot up from my seat, my voice louder than I expected, but the question didn't restrict the method of solution. As long as the correct answer can be reached, why can't a more efficient method be used? The classroom fell silent. Teacher Jing stared at me for a few seconds, then suddenly smiled. Well said. Mathematics should never be confined by rigid rules. He turned to the class. This is why I appreciate students who have their own ideas. The bell rang, and Teacher Jing packed up her lesson plans, ready to leave. Before she went, she told me, same time next week, don't be late. Students left the classroom in 2s and 3s, many of them looking at me with curiosity. I slowly packed my school bag, and only after everyone had left did I let out a long sigh of relief. Your approach to solving the problem is very unique. I jumped, startled, and looked up to see Zhou Mingyuan standing at my desk. The setting sun slanted in through the window, casting golden light spots on his glasses. Thank you for the book. I pointed to Advanced Mathematics Competition Essentials in my bag. It was very helpful. He nodded, seeming to want to say more but holding back. In the end, he just said, see you tomorrow, and turned to leave. I watched his retreating figure, a strange feeling stirring in my heart. In my previous life, Zhou Mingyuan was just a vague shadow in my memory, always sitting in the front row, always buried in his studies, always first in the grade, but now, he had suddenly become a flesh and blood person. The next morning, as soon as I entered the classroom, I sensed something was off. A few girls were whispering together, and as soon as they saw me, they immediately dispersed, their eyes looking strange. Su Ting greeted me warmly as usual. Xiaoyu, do you know? Lin Shuyuan asked about you yesterday. She deliberately spoke loudly so the whole class could hear. I frowned. Oh, what did he ask? He asked if you were sick and why you hadn't been to the small canteen recently. Su Ting blinked. I told him you were preparing for the math competition, and he seemed very surprised. I put down my school bag and said calmly, I am indeed very busy and don't have time to go to the small canteen. Oh, stop pretending. Su Ting nudged my waist. The whole class knows you're participating in the competition just to get Lin Shuyuan's attention. Playing hard to get. Very clever. I suddenly turned to look at her. Who said that? Su Ting was startled by my sharp gaze and stammered, everyone is saying that. After all, you used to like him so much. I looked around the classroom. The classmates were pretending to do their own things, but they were clearly eavesdropping. So that's how it is. Su Ting was spreading rumors, trying to pull me back into the persona of infatuated with Lin Shuyuan. Su Ting, I said, enunciating each word, I'm participating in the competition because I love math. And it has nothing to do with Lin Shuyuan. Please tell everyone to stop. Assuming things, the classroom was silent. Su Ting's face turned red, then pale, and finally, she forced a stiff smile. I was just joking. Why so serious? The class bell saved her. I returned to my seat and noticed Zhou Mingyuan in front of me turn his head and give me a barely perceptible nod, so he had heard too. My face inexplicably felt hot. For the next few days, I was completely immersed in my studies. I attended classes normally during the day, reviewed competition material at night, and spent weekends at the library. The book Zhou Mingyuan lent me became my Bible, with every page filled with notes. On Sunday afternoon, I was tackling a difficult problem in the library when I suddenly smelled a familiar scent of ink. This is wrong. A slender finger pointed at my draft paper. Zhou Mingyuan was standing behind me at some point, bending over to look at my calculations. Step 3. There's an issue with the integral interval division. I checked it carefully, and indeed, that was the case. After correcting it, I quickly arrived at the answer. Thank you, I said sincerely. How did you notice? I'd done similar problems before. He pulled out a chair and sat down, taking a few books from his backpack. These might be helpful for you. I opened the topmost book, which was Solutions to International Mathematical Olympiad Problems. It was densely filled with annotations, the handwriting as neat as print. Are these all your notes? I asked in surprise. He replied briefly, then pointed to a page. These kinds of combinatorial geometry problems are your weakness. You should practice them more. We ended up studying together for the entire afternoon. Zhou Mingyuan didn't say much, but every word he spoke hit the mark. I found myself able to follow his train of thought, and even occasionally proposed solutions that impressed him. You're really good at math. As he was leaving, he suddenly said, why didn't you show it before? I was silent for a moment, then replied half-jokingly, perhaps because my attention was on other things before. He nodded, as if understanding something. Lin Shuyuan, this wasn't a question. I looked at him in surprise. You know too, the whole school knows. He adjusted his glasses, but it seems now, you've already woken up. I finished his sentence, smiled. That's right. Zhou Mingyuan's lips curved slightly, the closest I'd ever seen him to a smile. On Monday morning, as soon as I entered the school gate, I felt that the atmosphere was wrong. Several girls were pointing at me, and some were even openly snickering. Su Ting stopped me at the classroom door, her face alight with a strange excitement. Xiaoyu, you're trending on the campus forum. She pulled out her phone and showed it to me. The screen displayed a post titled, Let's talk about that academic bitch who plays hard to get. The content was a detailed account of my thought process in pretending to like studying to attract Lin Shuyuan's attention, complete with several candid photos of me studying in the library. What was most disgusting was that the poster claimed to be my best friend, alleging that while I appeared aloof, I actually sent Lin Shuyuan dozens of messages every night. My fingers clenched the strap of my school bag, my knuckles turning white. The me from my past life might have broken down on the spot, but now, boring. I handed her phone back and walked straight into the classroom. Su Ting hurried after me. Aren't you angry? This is clearly slander. I stopped and turned to look at her. Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Who would impersonate my best friend to post something like this? Her expression instantly froze. I leaned closer to her ear and whispered, delete the post, Su Ting. Otherwise, I'll let the whole school know who secretly altered the physics experiment data at the end of last semester. Su Ting's face turned ashen. You. How do you know? I know far more than you imagine. I patted her shoulder, my voice returning to normal. By the way, there's a math quiz today. Good luck. I walked back to my seat, feeling all eyes on me. Zhou Mingyuan, sitting in front, turned around and handed me a note. Need any help? I shook my head and wrote on the back of the note, thanks, I can handle it. He glanced at me, nodded, and turned back. For some reason, this small interaction warmed my heart. In the afternoon math competition class, Teacher Jing announced some news. Next Saturday is the city-level preliminary round, the top 20 will advance to the provincial semifinals, our school has 10 spots. He handed out a practice test. This time, I found it surprisingly easy and finished 20 minutes early. As I handed in my paper, Teacher Jing raised an eyebrow in surprise. After finishing the grading, he announced the scores: Zhou Mingyuan 98, Song Xiaoyu 95. Second in the class. The classroom erupted in an uproar. My own jaw almost dropped. In my past life, I never scored above 90 in math. Song Xiaoyu, Teacher Jing called me after class. Have you considered what major you want to study in the future? Math or computer science? I replied without hesitation. A dream I couldn't achieve in my previous life. He nodded with satisfaction. You have potential. Keep up the good work. As I walked out of the teaching building, the setting sun painted the sky orange. Zhou Mingyuan stood at the school gate, seemingly waiting for someone. Seeing me emerge, he hesitated for a moment, then walked over. Shall we walk together? He asked. I have some competition techniques I'd like to share. I nodded, and we started our journey home together. Passing by the small canteen, I caught a glimpse of Lin Shuoyuan and Su Ting sitting by the window out of the corner of my eye. Lin Shuoyuan's gaze followed me, his face wearing an expression of confusion I had never seen before, and Su Ting, her eyes reminded me of the pair I saw outside the hospital room just before my death in my previous life, filled with jealousy and resentment. But this time, I turned my head without hesitation, following Zhou Mingyuan's steps towards a completely different future. On Saturday morning, I opened my eyes before the alarm clock rang. Sunlight streamed through the gap in the curtains, drawing a golden line on the wooden floor. I stared at the light for a few seconds before remembering that today was the preliminary round of the math competition. While washing up, I noticed faint dark circles under my eyes in the mirror. I had stayed up until 2 in the morning reviewing, going over the key problem types in the books Zhou Mingyuan lent me, splashing cold water on my face. I forced myself to wake up. Xiaoyu, breakfast is ready, Mom called from the kitchen. The dining table was set with my favorite soy milk and fried dough sticks, along with 2 boiled eggs. Dad, unusually, hadn't overslept on a weekend morning and was already sitting there reading the newspaper. Exam today? He asked without looking up. Yes, the preliminary round of the math competition, I said, breaking a fried dough stick into my soy milk. It's at the Municipal No. 1 middle school, starting at 9 in the morning. Dad lowered his newspaper slightly. Study hard. Those 3 simple words made my nose sting. In my past life, he had loved me just as simply and deeply, but I had ignored and hurt him time and time again. I will, I replied softly, lowering my head to take a large gulp of soy milk. Hiding my reddened eyes, a crowd of students had already gathered at the entrance of City No. 1 high school. I stood under the shade of a tree with my backpack, flipping through my notes again. Suddenly, a shadow fell over my notebook. Nervous, I looked up. Zhou Mingyuan stood against the light, his white shirt sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing his well-defined forearms. The sunlight cast a golden halo around him, making even his hair seem to glow a little. I admitted honestly, it's my first time participating in this kind of competition. He took a bottle of mineral water from his backpack and handed it to me. Take a deep breath, just treat it like a regular practice. I took the water, my fingertips accidentally brushing against his hand. The cool touch sent a slight shiver through me. Zhou Mingyuan seemed not to notice. He had already turned towards the school entrance. It's time to go in. The air conditioning in the examination hall was set quite low, and I couldn't help but rub my arms. The invigilator handed out the papers. I quickly scanned the questions, and my heart gradually steadied. I had practiced most of the question types. Begin the exam. The pen scratched on the answer sheet. I was so engrossed in solving the problems that I forgot about the passage of time, and even forgot that this was a competition. The last major question was particularly difficult, and I was stuck for nearly 20 minutes until a flash of inspiration struck me. I could use the idea of Fourier series to solve it. Just as I was writing down the key steps, the end bell rang. As the invigilator collected the papers, I caught a glimpse of Zhou Mingyuan already standing up and looking in my direction. I gave him a helpless expression, and he nodded slightly, as if understanding what I meant. Walking out of the examination hall, the sunlight made me squint. Zhou Mingyuan was waiting for me at the entrance. The last question, he asked, didn't finish it, but the approach should be correct. I sighed. Using Fourier expansion, me too, he interrupted, a hint of surprise flashing in his eyes behind his glasses. Few people in high school know about this method. We walked towards the school gate side by side, discussing the exam questions from earlier. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out from behind us, Song Xiaoyu, I turned around. Lin Shouyuan was standing there, in a white shirt and jeans, as sunny and handsome as ever. Several boys from the basketball team stood beside him, all looking at me curiously. I heard you participated in the math competition. Lin Shouyuan took a few steps closer, his tone relaxed and natural, as if we were old friends. Did you solve the last problem? I was stunned. In my past life, Lin Shouyuan never bothered to discuss studies with me, let alone approach me first. His current attitude left me unsure how to react. I didn't finish it, I replied briefly. Subconsciously glancing at Zhou Mingyuan, Lin Shouyuan followed my gaze to Zhou Mingyuan, his smile stiffening slightly. Oh, the top student Zhou is here too. He turned back to me. By the way, will you come to the basketball game next week? I might not have time, I said calmly. I need to prepare for the next round, the semifinals. Lin Shouyuan raised an eyebrow. Are you sure you can make it? Of course she can, Zhou Mingyuan interjected, his voice calm and certain. Her approach to the last question was correct. Lin Shouyuan's expression turned somewhat unpleasant. His teammates began to whisper amongst themselves, casting curious glances his way. Well, good luck then, Lin Shouyuan finally managed to utter. Before leaving with his friends Zhou Mingyuan and I continued walking towards the bus stop, neither of us mentioning what had just happened. Yet, Lin Shouyuan's unusual behavior kept replaying in my mind. Why was he suddenly paying so much attention to me? He likes you, Zhou Mingyuan suddenly said, as if reading my thoughts. What? I nearly choked on my own saliva. Impossible, he's never. People always become interested in those who suddenly stop paying attention to them, Zhou Mingyuan said, pushing up his glasses. His tone was as casual as if he were discussing the weather, especially those who are accustomed to being pursued. I stared at his profile, suddenly realizing that this seemingly dull academic prodigy possessed astonishing insight. On Monday morning, as soon as I entered the classroom, I sensed something was off. Students were gathered in small groups, and the moment they saw me, they stopped talking and cast strange glances my way. Su Ting rushed up to me like a gust of wind. Xiaoyu, guess what? The preliminary round results are out. Her voice was piercingly high, audible to the entire class. I put down my bag, trying to remain calm. Oh, you made it, and you're second in the entire school. Su Ting grabbed my arm and shook it, only second to Zhou Mingyuan. Lin Shouyuan is only ranked 36th. My heart suddenly pounded faster, and a fine sweat broke out on my palms. Second in the entire school. This far exceeded my expectations. Is that true? I murmured to myself. Of course it's true. It's already posted on the announcement board, Su Ting said excitedly, then lowered her voice. Lin Shouyuan was really hit hard. He was distracted during training yesterday. I finally understood why he suddenly struck up a conversation with me yesterday. It seems Zhou Mingyuan was right. Lin Shouyuan is indeed interested in people who suddenly stop paying attention to him. Song Xiaoyu, said homeroom teacher Ms. Li, walking into the classroom with a rare smile. Congratulations on advancing to the semifinals. The principal specifically praised our class for producing two math whizzes. The entire class turned to look at me in unison, their eyes a mixture of surprise and admiration. The study representative in front of me even turned back and gave me a thumbs up. This feeling of being affirmed feels really good. After the bell rang for the end of class, Su Ting pulled me towards the convenience store. On the way, she kept glancing at me, looking like she had something to say but couldn't bring herself to. Just say it if you have something to say. I bought a bottle of mineral water, unscrewed it, and took a sip. Xiaoyu, she bit her lip. Do you really not like Lin Shouyuan anymore? I stopped in my tracks and looked her straight in the eyes. Isn't this exactly what you wanted? Su Ting's face instantly turned pale. What do you mean? Nothing, I chuckled lightly. I just feel like this is good right now, focusing on my studies, not having to revolve around other people all day. She visibly relaxed, but her eyes still flickered. Then, if someone were to pursue Lin Shouyuan, you wouldn't mind. I almost burst out laughing. So that's it. She was testing my attitude to decide her next move. Of course I wouldn't mind. I paused deliberately, but Su Ting. A friendly reminder, Lin Shouyuan seems to prefer pursuing others rather than being pursued. Her expression froze. She clearly hadn't expected me to say that. I patted her shoulder and turned back to the classroom, leaving her standing there to process my words. In the following days, rumors about me spread like wildfire throughout the school. Some said I hired a Tsinghua professor as a private tutor during the summer. Others claimed I deliberately played the fool for 3 years just to make a spectacular debut. The most outrageous rumor was that I was secretly dating Zhou Mingyuan. and he was helping me with math. Zhou Mingyuan himself seemed unfazed by these rumors. We continued to attend the competition class together and occasionally studied in the library. He spoke little, but every word he uttered was to the point, and I found myself increasingly enjoying our time together. On Friday after school, Teacher Jing asked Zhou Mingyuan and me to stay behind. The provincial semifinals are on the 15th of next month. He adjusted his glasses. Starting next week, we'll have extra training every Tuesday and Thursday. Are you two okay with that? We both shook our heads. Teacher Jing nodded with satisfaction and handed each of us a document. Here are past exam papers and their analyses. Study them carefully. As we walked out of the school gate, the setting sun stretched our shadows long. Zhou Mingyuan suddenly asked, "Why are you suddenly so interested in math?" I kicked a small stone, thinking about how to answer. It's just, I suddenly had an epiphany. I find math more interesting than many things. At least, right is right and wrong is wrong. It's very pure. He nodded, seemingly satisfied with the answer. For the last question in the semifinals, your approach was actually more concise than mine. Really? I looked at him in surprise. I was worried about losing points because it was too far beyond the syllabus. We stood under the bus stop sign discussing the problems for a long time, until the bus I needed arrived. See you Tuesday. I hopped onto the bus, waving goodbye to him. He waved back, a rare gesture, a slight upturn of his lips. This almost imperceptible smile brightened my mood all the way back home. Mom and Dad were watching TV in the living room. I quietly placed the preliminary round report card on the coffee table, then pretended to go to the kitchen for water. "Xiaoyu," Mom exclaimed, "is this your grade?" I walked back to the living room. Dad had already picked up the report card. His eyes wide, second place in the citywide math competition preliminary round, second only to the legendary Zhou Mingyuan. My name was printed in black and white. This, Dad's hand trembled slightly. Good, really good. He looked up, and to my surprise, his eyes were a little moist. In my memory, my father had never shown such an expression for any of my achievements. In my past life, I spent all my time chasing Lin Shuyuan and trying to please Su Ting. My grades were a mess, and I only got into a third-tier university for college entrance exams. Old song. Our daughter has made us proud. Mom was already wiping away tears. I knew Xiaoyu was smart. Dad suddenly stood up and patted my shoulder. Keep up the good work. Don't get arrogant. His tone was as serious as ever, but the corners of his mouth couldn't help but turn up. Lying in bed at night, I stared at the ceiling, a long-lost sense of satisfaction welling up inside me. This was the life I wanted, to be recognized by my family, valued by my teachers, and earn respect through my own efforts. My phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from Zhou Mingyuan. Teacher Jing just emailed the extra training schedule. Tuesday at 4 p.m., room 302, mathematics building. I replied, got it, thanks. After a moment's hesitation, I sent another message. By the way, thank you for lending me those books. They were a great help. His reply was quick. You're welcome. Your comprehension skills are excellent. The brief exchange warmed my heart. How could the me of my past life have missed such a sincere person? My mind was filled only with the superficial brilliance of Lin Shuyuan. The next day was Saturday, and I slept in. It was almost 10 o'clock when I woke up. The house was quiet. My parents must have gone out to buy groceries. Rubbing my eyes, I walked into the kitchen and found that the rice cooker was still keeping the porridge warm. Next to it, a small dish held pickled vegetables and a boiled egg. While eating my simple breakfast, I casually opened my phone and found that Su Ting had sent me over a dozen messages and missed calls. The latest one read, urgent, reply ASAP. I sighed and dialed her number. Xiaoyu, she shrieked as soon as she answered. Why did you take so long to call me back? Something big happened. What is it? I asked, slowly peeling a boiled egg. Lin Shuyuan, he asked for your WeChat after training yesterday. Su Ting's voice was sharp and urgent. I told him you don't have WeChat, and he actually said, then your phone number is fine. He's never proactively asked for a girl's contact information before. I almost choked on the egg. If I had received this kind of attention in my past life, I probably would have fainted from excitement. But now, it just felt like trouble. You didn't give it to him, did you? I asked nervously. Of course not. Su Ting's voice suddenly lowered. But, Xiaoyu, do you really not like him anymore? Not even a little bit. I put down my chopsticks and seriously considered the question. The first time I saw Lin Shuyuan after my rebirth, my heart did race, but that was more out of a lingering obsession from my memories than genuine feelings. Now, thinking of him again, my heart was as calm as a stagnant pool. I don't like him anymore. I replied bluntly. If you like him, go ahead and pursue him. Don't worry about me. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end of the line. How did you know? It's obvious, isn't it? I chuckled lightly. Ever since the beginning of high school, your eyes would light up every time I mentioned him. Su Ting's breathing quickened. Then why didn't you say anything sooner? Because I only just figured it out now, I said calmly. Good luck, really. After hanging up, I let out a long sigh of relief. Su Ting probably won't see me as a rival anymore. Right, in the afternoon, I went to the library to return books and borrowed some reference materials for the semifinals. On my way home, I passed by the basketball court and saw Lin Shouyuan playing from a distance. Su Ting was sitting by the sidelines, holding a bottle of water and a towel. I quickened my pace, trying to slip by unnoticed, but was stopped by a whistle. Song Xiaoyu. Lin Shouyuan jogged over, his sweat-soaked t-shirt clinging to him. Here to watch the game. Just passing by. I swung the book bag in my hand. I have to prepare for the rematch, so I need to study. His smile faltered for a moment. I heard you got second place in the city. That's amazing, just lucky, I replied politely, my eyes involuntarily drifting towards Su Ting. She was staring intently at us, the bottle of mineral water in her hand already deformed from her grip. Oh, right. Lin Shouyuan scratched his head, showing a rare hint of shyness. We have a friendly match against Experimental Middle School next week. Will you come to watch? I'm afraid I won't have time. I need to prepare for the competition. I politely declined, but Su Ting will definitely be there. She's always been a big supporter of the school team. Lin Shouyuan's expression clearly fell. Oh, okay then. I took the opportunity to say goodbye and walked away quickly. After about 10 meters, I couldn't help but look back. Lin Shouyuan was still standing there, looking in my direction, and Su Ting, her gaze sent a shiver down my spine. It was filled with jealousy and resentment. Exactly like the last scene I saw on my hospital bed in my previous life. A strange atmosphere hung over the classroom on Monday morning. As soon as I pushed the door open, the noisy chatter that had been filling the room was abruptly silenced, as if someone had hit a mute button. Several girls quickly exchanged glances before lowering their heads to pretend to read their books. An isolation zone had formed around my seat, as if I had some contagious disease. Su Ting was sitting in her spot, whispering with her deskmate. When she saw me enter, she immediately flashed a smile so fake it was blinding. Good morning, Xiaoyu. I ignored her and walked straight to my seat. On the desktop, someone had drawn a large cheating symbol with correction fluid, with the words "fake top student" written beside it. I stared at the marks for 2 seconds, then calmly took out a wet wipe and erased them. Who did this? A cold, stern voice came from the front of the room. Zhou Mingyuan had stood up at some point, his eyes behind his glasses sharply scanning the entire class. No one answered. The classroom was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioner. Zhou Mingyuan walked to the teacher's platform, picked up the eraser, and tapped it against the blackboard. The video of Song Xiaoyu's problem-solving process from the preliminary round was publicly played by teacher Xing in the competition class last Friday. Anyone who doubts her ability can go to the math office to review it now. My fingers clenched tightly around the wet wipe. He was actually speaking up for me publicly. Zhou Mingyuan from my past life, the one who kept to himself and barely communicated with anyone. Well, Wang Lin, the study committee member, suddenly spoke up. I also watched that video. Song Xiaoyu's problem-solving approach is really impressive. A few classmates murmured in agreement. Su Ting's face turned ugly. She stood up abruptly. Who knows if she memorized the answers in advance? She's never passed a math test before. On the final exam last semester, Zhou Mingyuan responded calmly. Song Xiaoyu scored 89 in math, ranking 12th in the class. If you're referring to failing, then perhaps you should review the grading criteria. A few stifled chuckles rippled through the classroom. Su Ting's face flushed crimson. Just as she was about to retort, the homeroom teacher, Mr. Li, walked in. What's all this noise? Don't you know it's morning self-study time? Mr. Li scanned the room, his gaze settling on me and Zhou Mingyuan. Return to your seats. Zhou Mingyuan silently walked back to the front row. I lowered my head and opened my textbook, my heart pounding like a drum. This morning's Zhou Mingyuan was completely different from the image I remembered. After the class bell rang, as I was packing up my books, a note was passed forward to me. On it was a single line of neat handwriting. Meet at the library after school. I have competition materials for you, Zhou. I tucked the note into my pencil case, a smile unconsciously tugging at the corner of my mouth. When I looked up, I met Su Ting's venomous glare. She quickly turned her head away and hurried out of the classroom, pulling 2 other girls along with her. In the following days, the rumors on campus grew increasingly outrageous. Some said I had bribed the proctor. Others claimed my family had donated money to the competition committee. The most ridiculous one was that Zhou Mingyuan and I had a special relationship, so he helped me cheat after the extra competition training on Wednesday. Teacher Jing kept Zhou Mingyuan and me behind. Don't take the recent rumors to heart, he said, offering rare comfort. That's how academia is. There are always people who can't stand to see others succeed. Thank you, teacher. I'm not bothered, I said sincerely, having experienced online harassment and workplace exclusion in my past life. These campus rumors were nothing in comparison. Teacher Jing nodded, then turned to Zhou Mingyuan, regarding that mathematical modeling idea you mentioned last time. I found some materials and left them in your mailbox. Thank you, teacher, Zhou Mingyuan said, adjusting his glasses as we left the math building. The setting sun bathed the campus in a golden hue. Zhou Mingyuan suddenly asked me, why haven't you tried to clear up the rumors? I kicked a small stone on the path. Would it help? Those who believe will believe anyway, and those who don't need no explanation. He gave me a thoughtful look and said, you're more mature than your peers. Those words made my heart tighten. Yeah, with a mental age of 28, of course I'm more mature than a high school student. My house is this way. Zhou Mingyuan pointed to the western path at the fork in the road. See you tomorrow. Watching his retreating figure, a sudden idea came to me. Wait, I jogged to catch up. Can I go to your place to see those materials? The mathematical modeling ideas teacher Jing mentioned. Zhou Mingyuan visibly stiffened, his eyes flickering. My place isn't very convenient. Oh, never mind then, I quickly said, afraid of offending him. But he hesitated. How about the library on Saturday? I can make a copy and bring it for you. Great. I breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you. Watching Zhou Mingyuan walk away, I turned and headed home. His hesitation and evasiveness just now had piqued my curiosity. In my past life, I knew nothing about Zhou Mingyuan's family, only that he had excellent grades and a solitary personality. Thinking about it now, perhaps there was some hidden story on Saturday morning. I arrived at the library half an hour earlier than the agreed time. The weekend reading room wasn't crowded. I chose a corner seat by the window, sat down, and spread out my review materials. You're early. Zhou Mingyuan's voice came from above me. I looked up. He was wearing a light blue shirt today, which made his skin appear even fairer. He was carrying a bulging old canvas bag. Couldn't sleep, so I came early, I said, closing my book. Did you bring the materials? He nodded, pulled a folder from his bag containing a thick stack of photocopied papers. I opened the first page and was immediately captivated. It was a cutting-edge paper on nonlinear differential equations, densely covered with annotations. These notes, my understanding, Zhou Mingyuan sat down opposite me, might contain errors. They're for reference only. I quickly skimmed through a few pages and exclaimed in amazement. This is incredible. Some of the ideas are at a level I encountered in college. Well, I mean, it looks like something a university professor would write. Zhou Mingyuan's eyes widened slightly behind his glasses. You can understand this. About 70%, I admitted honestly. I'm still not quite clear on this part about the application of chaos theory. He immediately pulled out a pen and sketched a simple model on a scrap of paper. You can think of it like this. We spent the whole morning discussing like that, completely losing track of time. It wasn't until my stomach growled in protest that Zhou Mingyuan glanced at his watch. It's 12:40. Goodness, I gasped. I had no idea. Are you going home for lunch? Zhou Mingyuan shook his head. I brought my own. He pulled an aluminum lunchbox from his old canvas bag. There's a microwave behind the library. Looking at his simple lunchbox, I suddenly realized something. Do you always spend weekends like this? Coming to the library alone to study, bringing your own food? He answered briefly, then added as if explaining, my parents are busy with work. I didn't press further, but I already had a guess in my mind. While packing up my books, I accidentally knocked over his canvas bag, and its contents scattered across the floor. Aside from a few old books, there was a worn-out wallet, a bus pass, and a certificate for a low-income family. I hurriedly helped him pick everything up, pretending not to have seen that certificate, but Zhou Mingyuan's ears were already flushed red. He quickly stuffed the items back into his bag, his movements somewhat rough. Sorry, I said softly. It's fine. His voice was cold, as if guarding against something. We walked in silence to the library entrance. The sunlight was scorching, making it hard to keep our eyes open. Zhou Mingyuan, I mustered the courage to speak up. Starting next week, can I bring an extra lunch? My mom always says I eat too little and she makes too much food. He stopped walking, turned to look at me. His gaze sharp as if trying to see through my thoughts. I tried hard to keep my expression natural, not letting him see that this was deliberate help. Okay, he finally whispered in reply. We agreed on a study time for next week and then went our separate ways. On the bus home, I recalled that low-income certificate, a pang of bitterness in my heart, in the previous life. What kind of pressure did Zhou Mingyuan carry on his shoulders to get into Tsinghua University, and why did he ultimately give up the opportunity for further study and choose to start working directly at noon on Monday? While I was eating in the cafeteria, Lin Shuyuan suddenly sat down across from me with his tray. Alone, he flashed his signature sunny smile. I looked up and noticed girls at several nearby tables stealing glances in our direction, whispering among themselves. Su Ting was sitting not far away, her eyes fixed on us, her chopsticks nearly snapping in her grip. Yeah, I answered briefly, continuing to eat with my head down. I heard you're preparing for the math competition semifinals, Lin Shuyuan said, carrying on the conversation. My preliminary score was too low. I didn't make the semifinal list. Oh, that's a shame, I responded mechanically. Song Xiaoyu. He suddenly lowered his voice. Do you hate me? The question almost made me choke. In my past life, I could be happy for an entire day over a single glance from Lin Shuyuan, and now he was asking if I hated him. I don't hate you. I put down my chopsticks. I just don't have time to think about anything other than studying. What about before? He pressed. In freshman and sophomore year, you clearly. I was immature back then. I looked him straight in the eye. I've thought it through now. Students should focus on their studies. Lin Shuyuan's expression became complicated. Is it because of Su Ting? She told me. Never mind. He shook his head. Anyway, I wish you luck with the competition. He got up and left. His tray barely touched. I watched him walk towards the cafeteria exit, and Su Ting immediately followed. Through the glass window, I saw them arguing about something outside. Su Ting was gesturing excitedly, while Lin Shuyuan looked impatient. Before class in the afternoon, I went to the classroom early to get my books. As soon as I pushed the door open, I saw Su Ting and two other girls gathered around my seat, suspiciously doing something. Do you need help? I asked coldly. They recoiled as if shocked. Su Ting was holding my math notebook, several pages already torn out. Xiaoyu, we just wanted to look at your notes, she stammered, hiding the notebook behind her back. I strode over and snatched the notebook back. Looking through someone else's things without permission is called stealing. I checked the torn pages. They were the latest practice problems for the semifinals. Give me those papers back. Who cares? Su Ting's expression suddenly changed, and she threw the crumpled paper balls at my face. Acting like a know-it-all. Do you really think Zhou Mingyuan likes you? He just pities you. The paper balls scattered on the floor. I crouched down and picked them up one by one, trying to keep my voice steady. Su Ting, I'll say this one last time. I don't like Lin Shuyuan. Go ahead and pursue him if you want. But if you bother me again, what? She challenged. Looking down at me, I stood up, leaned close to her ear, and whispered, I'll tell Teacher Zheng about you secretly changing the physics experiment data last semester. You know, that's enough for a major demerit. Su Ting's face instantly turned pale. She took 2 steps back, her lips trembling. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I smiled and sat back down. Starting to sort through my torn notes, she glared at me fiercely, then stormed out with her 2 followers. Slamming the door, I let out a long sigh, my hand still trembling slightly. In my past life, I would have swallowed my pride, even tried to appease Su Ting, just to stay in the best friend circle. But now, I've learned to set boundaries. After school, I met Zhou Mingyuan at the school gate. He seemed to be waiting for someone and walked over when he saw me. I heard Lin Shuyuan was looking for you at noon today. He asked directly. I looked at him in surprise. The news travels that fast. The whole school knows. Zhou Mingyuan's tone was a little unnatural. What did he say to you? Just ask if I hate him. I shrugged. It's inexplicable. Zhou Mingyuan's expression relaxed slightly. How are the preparations for the semifinals going? It's okay. It's just, I hesitated for a moment, then took out the torn notebook. There was a small accident today. He flipped through it, his brow furrowed. Su Ting. I nodded. Zhou Mingyuan was silent for a while, then suddenly took out a brand new notebook from his bag. Here, this, I bought an extra one, he quickly explained, the tips of his ears turning slightly red. I don't need it. Anyway, I took the notebook. The cover had a starry sky pattern, a style too beautiful for a boy to choose. I opened the first page and found a note tucked inside. Chaos Theory supplementary materials have been organized and will be brought to you tomorrow. Zhou, thank you, I said softly, a warmth spreading through my chest. We walked side by side to the bus stop. the setting sun stretching our shadows long, Zhou Mingyuan suddenly said, "Before the semifinals, we can discuss things a few more times. Two minds are always better than one." "Sure," I agreed with a smile, "but we need to find a safe place, far from Su Ting's interference." "My place?" Zhou Mingyuan hesitated. "It's small, but it's quiet, if you don't mind." I looked at him in surprise, remembering the low-income certificate. What did it mean that he was willing to invite me to his home? "I don't mind," I said earnestly. "Thank you for trusting me." Zhou Mingyuan nodded, the corners of his mouth turning up slightly. This expression, which could barely be called a smile, made my heart skip a beat. Just then, my phone vibrated. It was a text from my mom. "Xiaoyu, your dad had a company physical today, and the doctor said his blood pressure is a bit high. He needs a follow-up next week. Can you advise him to smoke and drink less?" I stared at the screen, my blood running cold. My father had a heart attack and passed away around this time in my previous life. History was repeating itself, and I had to change it. "What's wrong?" Zhou Mingyuan noticed my unusual behavior. "Nothing," I forced a smile, "just some family matters." The bus arrived, and we said goodbye and parted ways. Sitting on the bus, I clutched my phone tightly, starting to plan how to force my father to go for a comprehensive medical checkup. This time, I would not lose him. Su Ting, Lin Shuyuan, and even the math competition suddenly became less important. "Dad, you have to go to the hospital for a full checkup." I blocked the doorway, stopping my father as he was about to leave for work. "Nonsense," my father frowned. "The company does physicals every year, what could be wrong? Last week my blood pressure was just a little high, a little high." My voice trembled as I pulled out my phone and the information I had researched last night. "Normal systolic pressure should be below 120, and yours is already 150, you call that a little?" Mom came out of the kitchen with breakfast, looking at us worriedly. "Old song, what our daughter said is right, you should go for a checkup." "No time." Dad grabbed his briefcase. "This quarter's report is due soon, we'll talk about it after this busy period." My eyes welled up with urgency. In my past life, he had also made excuses like this, and then had a sudden myocardial infarction in the office, before the ambulance even arrived. "No," I desperately held onto his sleeve, my voice choked. "You must go today. Otherwise I'll go on a hunger strike." Dad was stunned, clearly not expecting me to be so extreme. Mom was also startled. "Xiaoyu, how can you talk to your father like that?" "Mom, you don't understand." I bit my lip, my mind racing. How could I make them believe me? In my past life, Dad's illness occurred 2 weeks later, and I had to get him to accept treatment before then. Dad sighed, his tone softening. "Xiaoyu, I know you're worried about me. How about this? After I submit the report next week, I promise to go to the hospital." "Okay, next week." Too late. I was burning with anxiety, but I couldn't think of a more convincing reason to persuade him. I couldn't just say, "I've been reborn, and I know you'll die of a heart attack in 2 weeks. Could I go eat first?" Mom smoothed things over. "You have school later." I sat blankly at the dining table, listlessly pushing the congee around. Dad finished his meal in a hurry and left. Before he went, he ruffled my hair. "Good girl. Don't worry." Watching his retreating back, my nose stung. If history repeats itself, what's the point of my rebirth? "Mom," I suddenly looked up. If I said I knew what was going to happen in the future, would you believe me?" Mom's hands, which were clearing the dishes, paused. "What nonsense are you talking about? For example, I know it will rain next week. I know the topic of the final exam essay, and I racked my brain for something to prove myself. I know Auntie's son is getting a divorce." "Xiaoyu," Mom's face changed drastically. "You can't say such things." "It's true," I said eagerly. "They'll start divorce proceedings next month because cousin's affair was discovered." "What's wrong with you today?" Mom put down her chopsticks heavily. "Are you feeling too much academic pressure? Do you want to take a day off?" I hung my head dejectedly. As expected, no one would believe such an absurd story on the bus to school. I kept thinking about how to convince Dad to go to the hospital. Maybe I should talk to Zhou Mingyuan. He's so smart, he might come up with a solution. But how could I even bring this up? "Hi, I've been reincarnated and I know my dad is going to die in 2 weeks." As soon as I walked through the school gate, I was stopped by Su Ting and her new entourage. Well, look who it is, the top student," Su Ting said sarcastically, swinging a cup of milk tea. "Heard there's a math semifinal today, hope you get a big fat 0. I couldn't be bothered to deal with her and tried to walk around her, but she deliberately stuck out her foot and tripped me, making me almost fall. "Be careful," Su Ting said, feigning concern as she accidentally spilled her milk tea on my backpack. "Oops," my hand slipped, The sticky milk tea seeped through the seams of my backpack. I hurriedly opened it to find my review notes and reference materials soaked in the pink liquid. Su Ting. I glared at her. You did this on purpose. Where's the evidence? She asked with a provocative smile. And the girls around her snickered. I clenched my fists and took a few deep breaths to suppress my anger. Arguing now would only play into her hands and affect my competition performance. Never mind, I said calmly, pulling out a tissue to wipe the documents. The content is all in my head anyway. Su Ting, not seeing the breakdown she expected, her face fell. What are you pretending to be so calm about? Do you really think Zhou Mingyuan likes you? He's just pitying you, the unwanted one. The unwanted one is you, isn't it? A cold voice came from behind me. Zhou Mingyuan appeared beside me at some point. His gaze as sharp as a blade. Didn't Lin Shuoyuan just reject you yesterday? Su Ting's face instantly turned beet red. You, what nonsense are you talking about? The whole school knows. Zhou Mingyuan adjusted his glasses. Do you want me to repeat his exact words of rejection? Su Ting jumped up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, pointing at my nose. Song Xiaoyu, you just wait. Then she fled with her entourage. Thank you, I whispered to Zhou Mingyuan. Continuing to salvage my notes, he squatted down to help me pick up the scattered papers. Are they still usable? The important pages are already. I looked dejectedly at the stuck-together pages, which were the key question types I had organized for several days. Zhou Mingyuan pondered for a moment, then suddenly took a notebook from his backpack. Here. I opened it and saw his own organized notes for the competition, with neat handwriting like print, and detailed analysis for each question type. This is your hard work. I can't. A copy, he said briefly. I have it memorized. I was so moved I couldn't speak. How could my past self have overlooked such a treasure of a boy? The semifinals start at 2 in the afternoon. Zhou Mingyuan checked his watch. There are 6 hours left. Enough time to go over it again. We found a quiet study room and reviewed together until noon. Zhou Mingyuan's notes were even clearer than the textbook, and some of his problem-solving approaches were things I hadn't even considered. I absorbed the knowledge intently, temporarily forgetting the troubles of the morning. The afternoon semifinals were held at the Municipal Education Bureau, much more formal than the preliminary round. The examination hall was filled with top students from various schools, and the air was thick with tension. After the exam papers were distributed, I quickly scanned the questions and breathed a sigh of relief. Zhou Mingyuan had practiced most of the question types with me, especially the last combinatorial mathematics problem. It was almost identical to the example problem he explained this morning. I was immersed in solving the problems, forgetting the passage of time, until the invigilator reminded us that there were 10 minutes left, and I suddenly snapped back to reality. When handing in my paper, I secretly glanced at Zhou Mingyuan, and he happened to look over at me and give me a barely perceptible nod as I walked out of the examination hall. The sunlight made me squint. Zhou Mingyuan was waiting for me at the entrance. The last question, he asked. What was the answer? 2 over the square root of 3 plus 1. I answered without hesitation. His eyes lit up. Me too. We looked at each other and smiled, as in sync as partners who had worked together for years. Let me buy you a bubble tea, I suggested, as a thank you for your notes. Zhou Mingyuan shook his head. I'll walk you home. You seemed preoccupied this morning. I was taken aback, not expecting him to be so observant. After a moment's hesitation, I decided to partially confide in him. My dad has some health issues, but he refuses to go to the hospital. Zhou Mingyuan frowned slightly. Is it serious? Very serious. My voice trembled. If it's not treated early, it might. I couldn't finish, my throat feeling as if something was blocking it. Zhou Mingyuan was silent for a moment. My grandfather was the same. He didn't take high blood pressure seriously, and later, he didn't finish, but the meaning was clear. Do you want me to help you think of a solution? You have a solution. My eyes lit up. Not necessarily, but we can try. He pushed his glasses up his nose. Let me take you home first. On the bus, Zhou Mingyuan asked in detail about my father's symptoms and work situation. I tried my best to describe it as ordinary worry, rather than knowing for sure that he would have a sudden myocardial infarction. Cardiovascular diseases are most afraid of emotional agitation and overwork. Zhou Mingyuan analyzed. If he can rest for a few days, at least avoid the danger period. But he can't rest. I sighed. The company's quarterly report is due soon, and he's the finance manager. Zhou Mingyuan pondered. What if it's a mandatory requirement from a superior? What do you mean? He was about to explain when the bus arrived. After we got off, we continued our conversation as we walked. As we turned a corner, we suddenly heard a loud shout. Song Xiaoyu. I froze, turned my head, and saw my dad standing at the entrance of the residential complex, his face ashen. Dad, how did you? Who is he? My dad strode over, pointing at Zhou Mingyuan. Didn't you say you were going to a competition? Why are you coming back with a guy? It was then that I realized the problem. In my past life, I had never brought a guy home. And my dad must have misunderstood. Hello, uncle, Zhou Mingyuan said politely, bowing. I'm Song Xiaoyu's classmate, Zhou Mingyuan. We participated in the math competition together, and I just brought her back after the exam. Zhou Mingyuan. My dad's expression softened slightly. The one who ranked first in the grade. I quickly nodded. Yes, that's him. He helped me review. And today he even. That's enough, my dad interrupted. You go home first. I have something to say to this classmate. I got anxious. Dad, we really are just. Go home, my dad raised his voice, uncharacteristically, veins bulging on his forehead. Zhou Mingyuan gave me a look. You should go back first. I'll explain to uncle. I had no choice but to walk home, looking back repeatedly, my heart in my mouth. Mom wasn't home, and I waited anxiously for 20 minutes before hearing the door open. Dad came back alone. His expression was a little better than before, but still very serious. What did he say to you? I asked cautiously. He said you were study partners. And you've been emotionally unstable lately because you're worried about my health. My dad looked at me suspiciously. Xiaoyu, what exactly is your relationship with that boy? We're just classmates. I stomped my feet anxiously. Dad, why don't you believe me? I'm really worried about your health. What's there to worry about with me? Dad frowned. Are you dating? So you're using this as an excuse. I'm not. My voice choked. I know you're going to have a heart attack next week, the day you submit the report. The ambulance won't make it in time. I couldn't finish, tears streaming down my face. Dad froze. What are you talking about? I know this sounds absurd, I said, wiping away my tears, but I really know, because I've lived through it once before. In my past life, you left us at that very moment. Dad's expression shifted from shock to concern. He reached out to touch my forehead. Xiaoyu, do you have a fever? I'm not crazy. I dodged his hand, completely breaking down. I know many things about the future, like it will rain heavily next Wednesday. The essay topic for the final exam will be choice. My aunt's son will get divorced next month, and mom has an old knee injury that hurts on rainy days, but she never says anything. And the anti-smoking pills you hide in the third drawer of your study. Dad's face grew more and more shocked. How could you? Because I've been reborn, I sobbed. In my past life, I neglected my studies chasing Lin Xiuyuan, failed my college entrance exams, followed him to a third-rate university, and finally died of lung cancer in the hospital. I only found out before I died that Su Ting had been using me all along, and that she and Lin Xiuyuan had long since. I couldn't go on and squatted on the ground, weeping. The pressure, fear, and sorrow of this period poured out like a bursting dam. After an unknown amount of time, a warm pair of hands gently embraced me. It was Mom. She had returned at some point, her eyes red. Old song, she said, her voice trembling. Xiaoyu did accurately predict last week that Auntie Wang's daughter-in-law gave birth to a boy. That could have been a guess, Dad said, though his expression had wavered. But the quit-smoking pills, I did hide them. I believe my daughter, Mom said firmly, gently stroking my hair. Whether she's reborn or not, we've seen the changes in her during this time. She's suddenly become sensible, studies hard, and cares about her family. Isn't that enough? Dad was silent for a long time, then finally sighed. All right, I'll go for a full checkup at the hospital tomorrow. He squatted down, his rough hands wiping away my tears. But Xiaoyu, you have to promise me, whether it's reborn or not, you'll be okay and not put too much pressure on yourself. I threw myself into my father's arms, crying like a child. They might not have fully believed my story, but they chose to respect my feelings, and that was enough. In the evening, I received a text message from Zhou Mingyuan. How is it? I replied. Dad agreed to go to the hospital tomorrow. Thank you for your advice. He quickly replied. You're welcome. By the way, Teacher Jing asked us to see him after school tomorrow, regarding the special training for the finals. It dawned on me then that if the semifinals went well, there would be national finals. In my past life, I didn't even participate in the preliminaries, let alone know about what came next. Did we make it to the finals? I asked cautiously. The results aren't out yet, but Teacher Jing seems very optimistic about us. I lay on the bed, clutching my phone, my heart a mix of emotions. Today's confession left my parents half believing, half doubting, but at least Dad was willing to go to the hospital, and Zhou Mingyuan, What exactly did he say to my dad to make the stubborn man change his mind? The next morning, Dad really took leave to go to the hospital. Mom, worried, followed him. I went to school with a heavy heart, and as soon as I entered the classroom, I felt a strange gaze. Su Ting and her new best friends were gathered together, and when they saw me, they deliberately raised their voices. Some people rely on seducing the top student to cheat, and they really think they can make it to the finals. I couldn't be bothered to pay attention to her and walked straight to my seat. Zhou Mingyuan was already sitting in the front row. He looked back at me when he heard the commotion, and I shook my head to indicate I was fine. The third class in the morning was math. As soon as Teacher Jing entered, he announced, "Congratulations to our classmates Zhou Mingyuan and Song Xiaoyu for winning the provincial first prize in yesterday's semifinals and advancing to the national finals." The whole class was in an uproar. I sat stunned in my seat, unable to believe my ears for a moment. Provincial first prize, in my previous life. This was an honor that could guarantee admission to a key university. Quiet, Teacher Jing tapped the podium. To prepare for the finals, the school has decided to provide special training for the two students. They can be exempted from the last two classes every afternoon to participate. The envious glances of my classmates made me a little uncomfortable. Zhou Mingyuan, in the front row, turned his head and gave me a slight smile. This rare smile was like a ray of sunshine, dispelling the haze in my heart. After the bell rang for the end of class, Su Ting stopped me. "Don't get too cocky too soon. The finals are not something you can get through with just a little cleverness." "You're right," I replied calmly, "so I'll work even harder to live up to this opportunity." She was clearly taken aback by my response and was momentarily speechless. I walked past her towards the door and happened to see Lin Shuyuan standing in the hallway, looking at me with a complex expression. "Congratulations," he said stiffly. "I didn't expect you to be so good at math." "Thank you," I nodded politely. Preparing to leave, Song Xiaoyu, he called out to me suddenly, "About what happened before." "I'm sorry," I paused. "What happened?" "It's just what Su Ting said, and my past behavior." He scratched his head awkwardly. "Anyway, I wish you the best of luck in the finals." Watching his retreating back, I felt a sense of bewilderment. The Lin Shuyuan of my past life had never apologized and had always carried himself with an air of superiority. Had my own changes even affected him after school? Zhou Mingyuan and I went to the math office to find Teacher Jing. He explained the process and difficulty of the finals in detail, and then proposed a special training plan. "Starting tomorrow, you two will train together every afternoon," Teacher Jing said, pushing his glasses up his nose. "The finals are a team competition, requiring tacit understanding. Zhou Mingyuan has a solid foundation, and Song Xiaoyu is flexible in her thinking, making you a perfect match." Zhou Mingyuan and I exchanged a glance and nodded simultaneously. "Also," Teacher Jing added, "considering Song Xiaoyu's special family situation, the school has approved your use of the math activity room for self-study. The key will be given to Zhou Mingyuan for safekeeping." I looked at Teacher Jing in surprise, not understanding why he said my family situation was special. Zhou Mingyuan gently touched my arm, signaling me not to ask further. As we walked out of the office, I couldn't help but ask, what did Teacher Jing mean by special family situation? Zhou Mingyuan looked a bit embarrassed. "Yesterday, I told your dad that your recent emotional instability was due to your concern that his overwork might lead to cardiovascular problems. Teacher Jing might have heard about it from the school counselor. So that's how it was." I suddenly understood. Zhou Mingyuan was using this method to make my dad pay attention to his health, although it wasn't exactly my rebirth explanation. The effect was the same. "Thank you," I said sincerely. "You're much smarter than I am." Zhou Mingyuan's ears turned slightly red. "Did your father go to the hospital?" "He did. He's undergoing a comprehensive checkup." I sighed. "I hope it's not too late." He hesitated for a moment, then suddenly said, "My grandfather, if he had gotten checked earlier, perhaps he wouldn't have." He didn't finish, but the sadness that flashed in his eyes made my heart clench. "So that's how it is." The reason he understood my worries so well was because he had experienced a similar loss. "Zhou Mingyuan," I asked softly, "why are you being so good to me?" He froze for a moment, a flicker of panic in his eyes behind his glasses. "Because we're teammates." This answer left me both disappointed and relieved. "Yes, we're just teammates, nothing more." In my past life, Zhou Mingyuan and I had almost no interaction. Becoming friends in this life was already a pleasant surprise. "See you tomorrow." I smiled and said goodbye, then turned and walked towards the bus stop. Behind me, Zhou Mingyuan seemed to want to say something, but in the end, he just stood there quietly, watching me leave. Back home, Mom and Dad were already back. and a sumptuous dinner was laid out on the table. Dad's expression was complicated, and he stood up as soon as he saw me. "The test results are out," he said, his voice a little hoarse. "The doctor said my coronary artery is more than 70% blocked, and it could. I need to have a stent surgery immediately." My legs went weak, and I almost fell to my knees. Mom quickly supported me, her hands trembling too. "The surgery is next Wednesday," Dad continued, looking at me with complex eyes. "It's the same day you said you'd submit the report." I threw myself into my dad's arms, my tears soaking his shirt. "History can be changed, and destiny can be rewritten. This time, I won't lose anyone I cherish." "Xiao Yu, quick, look at the campus forum." Wang Lin rushed into the classroom and shoved her phone in front of me. I was organizing my math notes when I glanced up at the screen and my blood ran cold. The pinned post was titled "Exposing a Study Worm Bitch and How She Got into the Finals Through Special Connections," followed by a flame emoji indicating a hot topic. Clicking on the post, the content was even more appalling. The anonymous poster claimed I secured my competition spot by flattering teachers and top male students and included several candid photos. One of me and Zhou Mingyuan studying closely in the library, another of teacher Jun patting my shoulder encouragingly, and even a shot of my back from last week when I visited Zhou Mingyuan's house to discuss problems. My fingers trembled as I scrolled down to the comments section, which had already accumulated hundreds of replies. I could tell long ago, why pretend to be a scholar? Heard her math used to be a failing grade. Suddenly enlightened. Bullshit. Zhou Mingyuan's taste is really bad. He likes this kind of trash. Teacher Jing is usually so serious. Turns out he has this kind of preference. The most disgusting part was when someone forwarded the post to the grade-level group chat with malicious taunts. My phone was instantly bombarded with messages, from those asking out of curiosity, to those gloating, and even harassing messages from unknown numbers. "Stop looking." Wang Lin snatched my phone back, looking at me with concern. "Someone is clearly trying to smear you." Of course, I knew who it was. Glancing around the classroom, Su Ting and her new clique were sitting in the back row, pretending to read diligently, but occasionally stealing glances in my direction with barely concealed smiles. "Thanks for the reminder." I forced myself to stay calm and continued organizing my notes, but the pages were already crumpled in my grip. A faint tapping sound came from the front row. Zhou Mingyuan, with his back to me, tapped his fingers rhythmically on the table. This had become our secret signal, meaning "I've noticed, don't worry." I subtly nudged his chair leg with my foot, signaling that I understood. This small gesture inexplicably put me a little more at ease. The class bell rang, and Teacher Li entered the classroom with an unusually stern expression. He scanned the room, his gaze lingering on me for a few seconds before he began the lesson. It seemed he had also seen the post during the break for exercises. I deliberately lingered until the very end before leaving the classroom. In the hallway, a few girls from other classes pointed and whispered about me, their stares and discussions undisguised. I walked past with my head held high, my fingernails digging deeply into my palms. On the sports field, I stood at the back of the line, mechanically following the music. Suddenly, a familiar figure approached me, Lin Shuyuan. As the student council president, he occasionally patrolled the classes during exercises, but he had never specifically stopped beside any girl. "Morning," he said softly, pretending to check the correctness of the movements. "That post, don't pay it any mind." I almost missed a movement. "You saw it?" "Yeah," he frowned. "It's too malicious. If you need me to, I can help you contact the moderator to have it deleted." I looked at him in surprise. The Lin Shuyuan of my past life never meddled in other people's business, especially not to offend others for a girl. "Thank you, but no need." I shook my head. "The more you delete the posts, the more guilty you'll seem," he nodded thoughtfully. "That makes sense." He paused, then added, "Actually, I've been wanting to tell you, your recent changes are very admirable." The music ended, and the students began to disperse. Lin Shuyuan raised his voice, deliberately making sure those around could hear. "Song Xiaoyu, I heard you made it to the math finals. That's amazing. Our class finally has a top student goddess." His voice drew a lot of attention. I froze in place, not understanding why he was suddenly so high profile. Not far away, Su Ting's face instantly turned ashen, and she squeezed the bottle of mineral water in her hand so hard it creaked. "Thank you," I replied briefly and quickly left the troublesome place. Su Ting's sharp voice came from behind. "Shou Yuan, isn't the student union having a meeting? You're going to be late." During the afternoon's competition training, both Zhou Mingyuan and I were distracted. When Teacher Jing went out to take a call, Zhou Mingyuan suddenly spoke. "That post. You saw it too." I gave a wry smile. "It's true that Popularity breeds trouble. We've already traced the IP address of the post. He adjusted his glasses. It was from a computer in the school library, last Friday at 3:26 p.m. My eyes widened. How did you know that? The IT class representative has some privileges, he said casually, but a sharp glint flashed in his eyes behind his lenses. And there was surveillance footage from the library during that time. My heart pounded. Did you see who it was? Zhou Mingyuan nodded and pulled up a blurry video from his phone. On the screen, a girl in a yellow dress was suspiciously operating a computer, glancing around from time to time. It was Su Ting. It was her. As expected, I gritted my teeth. And those stolen photos. Most of them were screenshots from the class group album. Only the photo of your back when you went to my place was taken recently, Zhou Mingyuan analyzed. That means someone was following you. The thought sent a chill down my spine. Had Su Ting gone to such lengths? Are we going public? Zhou Mingyuan asked. I thought for a moment and shook my head. Going public now will only make her desperate. Let's wait until after the finals. Teacher Jing returned, and we had to end our conversation. But Zhou Mingyuan quietly slipped me a note. Be careful with your notes and materials. After school, I made sure to stuff all my competition materials into my backpack, leaving not even a scrap of draft paper behind. As I reached the school gate, I suddenly remembered my water bottle was still in the classroom, so I had to turn back. The classroom door was ajar, and I could hear rustling sounds from inside. I tiptoed and peeked through the gap in the door. Su Ting was squatting by my desk, rummaging through my drawers. I held my breath, quietly took out my phone, set it to silent, and started recording. In the video, Su Ting took out a notebook and flipped through it. Disappointed that it wasn't my competition notes, she put it back and continued searching. She even opened my pencil case and dumped everything out to check. Enough. I saved the video and suddenly pushed the door open. What are you looking for? Need any help? Su Ting jumped up as if she had been electrocuted, her face turning pale. I dropped my pen. I was looking for it. Oh really? I shook my phone. But I thought I saw you rummaging through my things just now. And I even recorded it. Her expression shifted from panic to ferocity. Song Xiaoyu, you set me up. Who set up whom? I approached her step by step. The post on the campus forum. Do you want me to pull up the library surveillance footage? A flicker of fear crossed Su Ting's eyes, but it quickly turned malicious. Go ahead. Who's going to believe you? The whole school knows what kind of person you are now. At least Zhou Mingyuan and Lin Shouyuan believe me. I deliberately provoked her, especially Lin Shouyuan. He even praised me as a top student goddess today. Did you hear that? This sentence struck Su Ting's weak spot like a knife. Her face contorted, and she suddenly grabbed my water cup and smashed it violently to the ground. Bitch, you clearly said you didn't like him anymore. Why are you still seducing him? The glass cup shattered into pieces, splashing water onto my pant leg. I calmly watched her hysterical state. I really don't like him, but it seems you do. Of course I like him. Su Ting's voice trembled. I've liked him since the first day of military training in high school. But he only has eyes for you. Even though you're so stupid and annoying, he only sees you. I looked at her in shock. This was the complete opposite of my memories from my past life. It was clearly Lin Shouyuan who was always indifferent to me. And in the end, he ended up with Su Ting. So you pretended to be my best friend and helped me pursue him. I suddenly realized, this way, you could legitimately get close to him while keeping tabs on our every move. Su Ting's chest heaved violently, and she didn't deny it. I know him better than you do. And I'm more suited for him. What can you do besides daydream about him? Now I'm good at math, I said sarcastically, and it seems I'm even more attractive to him. This sentence completely ignited Su Ting's rage. She raised her hand to slap me, but I quickly grabbed her wrist. Save it. If this video and the IP evidence are made public, what do you think Lin Shouyuan will think of you? Her arm fell limply, and tears welled up in her eyes. Song Xiaoyu, please don't tell him. Looking at her hateful and fearful expression, I suddenly felt a sense of emptiness. In my past life, I was toyed with by someone like this, even wasting my life for her. As long as you stop your little games, I'll pretend nothing happened. I released her hand. I'll delete the video after the finals, and we'll be even. Su Ting bit her lip and nodded, then picked up her school bag in a flustered state and ran out of the classroom. I squatted down to pick up the glass shards, my hand still trembling slightly. Need a hand? A familiar voice came from the doorway. Zhou Mingyuan stood there, holding my water bottle, the one I'd left in the activity room. You heard everything? I asked awkwardly. Enough. He walked in and squatted down to help me pick up the shards. She won't bother you again. I hope not. I sighed. Thank you. And for the IP investigation earlier, Zhou Mingyuan shook his head, indicating it was no trouble, then took a brand new thermos from his backpack. Here, the glass one is too dangerous. I took the cup, and a warm current surged through me. Engraved on the cup was a small line of text. The truth is rarely pure and never simple. Oh, wild, wild. I looked up in surprise. You read this? Zhou Mingyuan's ears turned slightly red. I just engraved it randomly. I thought it suited your current situation. I rubbed the words, the truth is rarely pure and never simple, and suddenly a question came to mind. Zhou Mingyuan, why are you so good to me? He lowered his head, concentrating on picking up the last piece of broken glass, and after a long pause, replied, because, you are worth it. This simple answer made my heart skip a beat. In my past life, Zhou Mingyuan and I had almost no interaction, but in this life, he had become my most steadfast supporter. Fate is truly wondrous. The next day, a new post appeared on the campus forum. A clarification statement regarding recent rumors, posted by the real name verified Zhou Mingyuan. The post logically refuted the previous slanders, attaching photos of us studying together in public places during each session, as well as my preliminary and final round scorecards. The last paragraph read, academic achievements should not be maliciously speculated upon. Song Xiaoyu's strength has been verified through multiple rounds of selection. Anyone with doubts is welcome to check her competition recordings in the mathematics office. As for those rumor mongers hiding behind anonymity, I just want to say, jealousy is the most honest form of flattery. This post instantly went viral across the entire school. Zhou Mingyuan, usually low-key and quiet, publicly confronted someone for me this time, surprising all the students. Even more unexpectedly, Lin Shuyuan left a comment in support. As the student union president, I condemn this malicious slander. Song Xiaoyu's progress is evident to all, and she is the pride of our class, with 2 campus heartthrobs publicly supporting me. The public opinion immediately reversed. Those who had mocked me before deleted their comments, and some even sent private messages apologizing. Su Ting didn't come to school all day, reportedly taking sick leave. I wouldn't have guessed. Wang Lin nudged me. Zhou Mingyuan is usually so cold, but he's so fierce when it matters. I stole a glance at Zhou Mingyuan in the front row. He was focused on his studies, but the tips of his ears were visibly red. This discovery made my heart feel incredibly sweet. As the special training concluded, Teacher Jing announced some news. The finals will be held in Nanjing in 2 weeks, and the school will arrange transportation for you. During this time, you need to strengthen your teamwork. Starting tomorrow, we will add an extra hour of training each day. By the time we left the activity room, it was already dark. Zhou Mingyuan insisted on walking me home. We walked side by side under the streetlights, our shadows intertwining, long and short. Thank you for your post today. I broke the silence. I didn't expect you to do that. Zhou Mingyuan pushed up his glasses. I'm just stating facts. And that line, jealousy is the most honest compliment, I said, mimicking his serious tone with a smile, was totally awesome. He paused, turning to look at me. You think it was awesome? Under the streetlight, his eyes were remarkably bright, reflecting tiny glints of light on his lenses. I suddenly realized what I had said, and my face flushed. It was quite impactful. A slight smile curved Zhou Mingyuan's lips, a rare smile that made my heart race. We walked in silence like this until we reached the entrance of my building. See you tomorrow, he said softly, turning to leave. Wait, I called out to him, acting on impulse. Do you want to come up for a bit? My parents have been wanting to thank you. Zhou Mingyuan clearly froze for a moment, then shook his head. It's too late. Maybe next time. He paused, then added, please thank your uncle and aunt for me. Watching his retreating back, I felt a mix of disappointment and relief. Perhaps he wasn't ready to meet my parents, even just as a classmate. Back home, Dad was helping Mom cook in the kitchen. The surgery is scheduled for next Wednesday. The doctor said he's recovering well and will be able to live a normal life after the stent procedure. You're back. Mom poked her head out. Dinner's almost ready. Where's Zhou? Didn't you invite him up for a bit? He had something to do, I mumbled, ducking into my room and dropping my backpack. I carefully placed Zhou Mingyuan's thermos on my desk, next to the notebooks he lent me. I casually opened the top one and found a photo tucked inside. It was me when I first started high school. Grinning foolishly at the school gate, I picked up the photo in shock, turned it over, and saw a line of neat handwriting. May the world treat you kindly. 2016, 9/1 September 1st, 2016. That was the day I started high school. The same time, my past self had just started to have a crush on Lin Shuyuan. Why did Zhou Mingyuan have this photo, and why write such a message? An unbelievable thought crossed my mind. Could Zhou Mingyuan have liked me in my past life? The door was suddenly knocked, and I hastily stuffed the photo back into my notebook. Mom poked her head in. What are you spacing out about? Dinner's ready, coming. I tried to calm myself, but my heart was pounding like it was about to leap out of my chest. At the dinner table, Dad excitedly talked about his post-surgery plans, with Mom chiming in occasionally. I mechanically shoveled rice into my mouth, my mind filled with that photo and those words in my past life. My eyes were only on Lin Shouyuan, and I never noticed Zhou Mingyuan's existence, yet, he might have been silently watching me all along, seeing me waste my life on someone unworthy, and ultimately heading towards tragedy. Xiaoyu, Mom waved her hand in front of my eyes. Don't you like the food? Huh, no. I quickly picked up a piece of food with my chopsticks. I was thinking about the competition. Don't be too nervous, Dad said, unusually gently. Just reaching the finals is already amazing. I nodded, but my mind was in chaos. If Zhou Mingyuan liked me in my past life, is his kindness to me in this life stemming from the same feelings? And what about my growing affection for him after dinner? I lay in bed staring at the ceiling when my phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from Zhou Mingyuan. Starting tomorrow, we'll be training for team problems. Remember to preview page 37 of the materials. It was a usual reminder, but my heart raced at this moment. I replied, okay. By the way, thank you for the mug. I really like it. He quickly replied, you're welcome. Good night. Those simple 2 words made me stare at the screen for a long time. Past and present lives, time and space intertwined. I seemed to be discovering a truth I had never noticed before, and that truth might be hidden in the black notebook that Zhou Mingyuan always carried with him. It was drizzling in Nanjing that morning. I leaned by the hotel window, gazing at the hazy skyline outside, my fingers unconsciously caressing the thermos Zhou Mingyuan had given me. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Zhou Mingyuan. See you at the lobby at 7, don't be nervous. I replied with an okay emoji and took a deep breath. Today was the day of the National Mathematics competition finals. In my past life, I wouldn't have dared to dream of standing on this stage. In the lobby, Zhou Mingyuan was already waiting, dressed in a neat white shirt and black trousers, much more formal than usual. Seeing me, he nodded slightly. Did you sleep well? SOSO. I told a small lie. In reality, I had barely slept all night, my mind filled with that unsolved practice problem. Teacher Zheng hurried over, holding 2 admission tickets. Remember, the finals are divided into team and individual competitions. The team competition accounts for 60%, so you need to cooperate. Seamlessly, we nodded and followed Teacher Zheng into the car arranged by the school. Raindrops tapped against the car window, and my heart beat faster with the rhythm of the falling rain. Here, Zhou Mingyuan suddenly handed me an earphone. Listen to this. I put it on doubtfully. Soft piano music came from the earphones, clear and calm like a mountain stream. Bach's Goldberg variations. He explained softly. It helps with concentration. The music did help to calm my nerves a bit. I secretly glanced at Zhou Mingyuan's profile. He was looking out at the rainy scenery through the window, his eyelashes casting small shadows behind his glasses. This boy, whom I had barely noticed in my previous life, had now become my strongest support. The final venue was set in the mathematics department building of Nanjing University. The auditorium was already packed with contestants from all over the country, and an invisible tension filled the air. Zhou Mingyuan and I found our seats and waited quietly for the start. The team competition begins now, with a time limit of 2 hours, announced the chief examiner. There are 6 major problems on the paper. With increasing difficulty, the exam papers were distributed. I quickly scanned through them and exchanged a look with Zhou Mingyuan. The first 4 problems were within our preparation scope, but the last 2 were clearly beyond the syllabus. We divided the work tacitly. He took problems 1, 3, and 5, while I took problems 2, 4, and 6. We each solved them independently first, then verified with each other. The pen scratched on the paper, and time ticked by. By the 5th problem, Zhou Mingyuan frowned slightly, repeatedly calculating on his scratch paper. I leaned over to see and found that his approach seemed to have hit a dead end. Try a topological approach. I wrote on a slip of paper and pushed it to him. His eyes lit up, and he immediately adjusted his problem-solving direction, quickly. Arriving at the answer, we smiled at each other and continued to tackle the last problem. The 6th problem was an extremely complex combinatorial mathematics question. I pondered deeply, and suddenly had an epiphany. It could be solved using bipartite graphs from graph theory. I quickly drew the model on paper and derived a series of conclusions. No, Zhou Mingyuan suddenly pressed down on my draft paper. His brow furrowed. This hypothesis doesn't hold. I was taken aback. Why, the constraints in the problem, he wrote down a few formulas on the paper, will cause this node in your model to become invalid. I checked carefully again and shook my head. No, the constraints only affect the local part, not the overall structure. Look here, we argued in low voices for a few minutes, neither able to convince the other. Only 15 minutes remained. Let's do it separately, Zhou Mingyuan suddenly said. You use your method, I'll use mine, and we'll submit 2 answers. I bit my lip, but this will dilute the score. It's okay, he adjusted his glasses. I trust your approach. This sentence flowed into my heart like a warm current. I nodded and quickly refined my solution. Before submitting, Zhou Mingyuan suddenly erased his answer and added a few crucial steps based on my approach. I looked at him in surprise. Your approach is more concise, he said briefly, handing his paper to the invigilator. After the team competition came the individual rounds. I poured my heart into every question, almost forgetting my nervousness and fatigue. When the final bell rang, I realized my back was drenched in sweat. How did it go? Teacher Jing asked eagerly as we left the examination hall. Not bad, Zhou Mingyuan replied, as concise as ever. We had 2 solutions for the 6th question. I added, I wonder which one the judges will prefer. Teacher Jing patted our shoulders. Regardless of the outcome, reaching the finals is already an honor for the school. The awards ceremony began at 3 in the afternoon. We sat in the audience, my palms sweating. Zhou Mingyuan handed me a tissue, our fingertips brushing briefly, the cool touch calming me slightly. Now, we will announce the winners of the high school team competition. The host opened the envelope. 3rd prize, 2nd prize, 1st prize. My heart nearly stopped beating. 1st prize, Zhou Mingyuan and Song Xiaoyu's team from Mingda High School. The auditorium erupted in thunderous applause. I sat stunned in my chair until Zhou Mingyuan gently nudged me, jolting me back to reality as I stood up. The few steps to the podium felt like walking with lead in my legs. My hands trembled so much I almost dropped the certificate and trophy. Flashes from the audience's cameras were constant, and in a daze, I saw Teacher Jing excitedly stand up and clap. Congratulations, the presenter shook our hands one by one. Your solution to the 6th question was very creative, the judges particularly appreciated it. So, my approach had won. I turned to look at Zhou Mingyuan, a rare smile played on his lips, and he nodded at me on the return bus. Teacher Jing excitedly called the principal to share the good news. Zhou Mingyuan and I sat in the back row, with the trophy placed on the seat between us. Thank you, I whispered. If it weren't for your support of my solution, your approach was better to begin with, Zhou Mingyuan said. Looking at the passing scenery outside the window, I just added a few details, but without your usual guidance and those reference materials, I wouldn't have gotten this far, I said sincerely. This trophy is half yours. He turned his head, his eyes behind his glasses exceptionally bright. No, it's your own effort. I just provided some tools. Just as I was about to say something else, my phone suddenly vibrated. It was a text from my mom. Dad's surgery was very successful. The doctor said he can be discharged after 2 more days of observation. How was your competition? I quickly replied with the good news, and the heavy weight in my heart finally lifted. Both Dad's surgery and the competition went smoothly. The critical turning points of this life have been successfully altered. Good news from home, Zhou Mingyuan asked. My dad's surgery was successful. I couldn't help but share my joy. The doctor said he's recovering well. Zhou Mingyuan's expression softened. That's good. Those simple 2 words warmed my heart. At this time in my previous life, my dad had already left us, and I was lost in the pain of a breakup. Now, everything is different. It was past 8 p.m. when I returned to school. The school leaders specifically welcomed us at the school gate and even took photos with us as a memento. I held the trophy, my smile so wide it almost froze my face. You'll be recognized at the all-school morning assembly tomorrow, the principal said cheerfully. Get a good rest tonight. Zhou Mingyuan insisted on walking me home. In the darkness, we walked side by side, neither of us wanting to break this peaceful joy. Song Xiaoyu, he suddenly called my full name when we reached the bottom of my building. Have you ever wondered, he hesitated, why your math suddenly got better after reincarnation? I was stunned. I had indeed pondered this question. Perhaps it's because I crammed math for postgraduate entrance exams in my previous life, that knowledge seems to still be in my mind. Zhou Mingyuan nodded thoughtfully. Interesting, memories can transcend time and space. What about you? I couldn't help but ask the question I had been holding back. Why are you so good to me? That photo. I saw it. His body visibly stiffened. What photo? The one from when I first enrolled in high school, with "May you be treated gently by the world" written on the back. I looked him straight in the eye. "Zhou Mingyuan, we barely spoke in our previous life. Why did you have my photo?" The night breeze blew, lifting the stray hairs on his forehead. He was silent for a long time, and finally only said, "It's late, let's go up." I knew he was avoiding the question, but I couldn't bear to press him. "Good night, see you tomorrow." He nodded and turned, disappearing into the night. I watched his retreating figure, my heart filled with more and more questions. At the morning assembly the next day, all teachers and students gathered on the playground. When the principal announced that Zhou Mingyuan and I had won first prize in the national mathematics competition, the applause was thunderous. We stood on the podium to receive our accolades, with countless phone cameras pointed at us from below. "Would the award-winning students please say a few words?" The principal handed me the microphone. I nervously took the microphone and scanned the familiar faces below, the envious glances of my classmates, the gratified smiles of my teachers, and Su Ting's gloomy expression. "Thank you to the school for giving me this opportunity," I said, my voice trembling slightly, "and special thanks to Teacher Jin for his guidance and to Zhou Mingyuan for his help. This award proves one thing: with hard work, anyone can change their destiny." I was referring to my rebirth, but everyone clearly understood it as a comeback. The applause erupted again, and I saw our homeroom teacher, Ms. Lee, secretly wiping her eyes. After going down from the stage, Zhou Mingyuan whispered, "You spoke very well." Just as I was about to respond, my attention was drawn to a commotion. Su Ting was shouting loudly in the crowd, "What are you pretending for? Who doesn't know how she got this award?" The surroundings instantly fell silent, all eyes turning to her. Su Ting's face flushed crimson, her eyes flashing with wild jealousy. "Su Ting," the homeroom teacher shouted sternly to stop her, but she had already lost control. "Song Xiaoyu, you stole everything from me." "Lin Shouyuan, the competition spot. And now this stupid award, what right do you have?" Her hysterical screams were particularly jarring in the quiet playground. The principal frowned and signaled for a teacher to escort her away, but I knew it was time to settle this. "Wait." I walked towards Su Ting, my voice so calm it surprised even myself. "You say I stole everything from you. Then what are these?" I took out the evidence I had prepared from my backpack. A copy of the love letter she imitated my handwriting on to Lin Shouyuan, IP records of her posts on the campus forum, and a video from yesterday in the classroom where she secretly filmed herself rummaging through my bag. "Since the first year of high school, you've used me to get close to Lin Shouyuan. Every gift I gave him ended up in your drawer. Every love letter I wrote, you kindly offered to help me revise. But in reality, you rewrote it into a version that belittled me," I said, word by word, my voice clearly carrying across the entire venue. "When I decided to focus on my studies and stop pursuing Lin Shouyuan, you panicked because you lost your excuse to approach him." Su Ting's face turned from red to pale, her lips trembling but unable to speak. "As for the competition," I sneered, "my efforts studying until 2 a.m. every day are only worthy of being called a broken award in your eyes." The surrounding classmates began to whisper, their gazes towards Su Ting filled with disdain. Lin Shouyuan stood at the front of the crowd, watching us with a complex expression. "I didn't." "You're talking nonsense," Su Ting weakly retorted, but no one believed her anymore. "Enough," the homeroom teacher interrupted. "Su Ting, come with me to the office. The rest of you, return to your classrooms and continue with your lessons." The crowd slowly dispersed, many still looking back. Zhou Mingyuan quietly walked to my side and took the heavy trophy from my hands. "It's okay now," he said softly, 3 simple words. Yet they made my eyes well up. Yes, it's okay now. The grievances of my past life have been settled. Su Ting's true colors have been exposed, and I have gained a brand new life. On the way back to the classroom, many classmates greeted me on their own, and some even gave me a thumbs up. The study monitor in the front row even turned around and said, "Song Xiaoyu, I've been wanting to ask you about your approach to that last problem. This feeling of being respected is truly wonderful. I'm no longer the love-struck girl who only chased after the school heartthrob, but a top student who has earned recognition through her own abilities." During lunch break, Lin Shouyuan unexpectedly appeared at the classroom door. "Can we talk?" I followed him to the corner of the hallway. He looked somewhat awkward, constantly rubbing the back of his neck. "About Su Ting, I'm sorry, it's not your fault." I shrugged, "But I should have noticed sooner." He sighed. "She said a lot of bad things about you, and I actually believed her. Is this the boy I was infatuated with in my past life, so easily swayed, lacking judgment?" I suddenly found it ridiculous. What did I ever see in him before? "It's all in the past," I said calmly. "I hope you find someone who truly suits you." Lin Shouyuan looked at me in surprise, as if he hadn't expected me to be so carefree. Song Xiaoyu, you've really changed a lot. He paused. If there was a chance to start over, there are no ifs, I interrupted him. We're already on different paths. He smiled bitterly. Yeah, you're going to a better university. I heard Tsinghua's admissions office has contacted teacher Zheng. This was the first time I'd heard this news, and I felt a surge of excitement inside, but kept my expression calm. It's not confirmed yet. Anyway, I wish you all the best in your future. Lin Shuyuan extended his hand. Still friends. I politely shook his hand. Of course. Returning to my seat, I couldn't help but send Zhou Mingyuan a message. I heard Tsinghua's admissions office contacted teacher Zheng. He replied quickly. Yeah. They called this morning. Teacher Zheng wants to wait until all the final competition results are out before telling us. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Tsinghua University, a place I wouldn't have dared to dream of in my past life, was now proactively extending an olive branch to me. After school, Zhou Mingyuan and I went to the math activity room to tidy up materials. Teacher Zheng was already waiting for us there, his face unable to conceal his joy. Both Tsinghua and Peking University have called. He got straight to the point. Hoping you'll consider their mathematics departments. Of course, the final choice is in your hands. Zhou Mingyuan and I exchanged a glance, both seeing surprise in each other's eyes. Thank you, teacher. Zhou Mingyuan spoke first. I need to discuss this with my family. Me too, I chimed in, already starting to imagine studying on Tsinghua's campus. Teacher Zheng patted our shoulders. No rush, there's still time. By the way, the Provincial Department of Education is going to award you a special scholarship. The ceremony is next Wednesday, so remember to prepare. As we walked out of the school gate, the setting sun dyed the sky golden red. Zhou Mingyuan, as usual, walked me home, but neither of us was in a hurry to part. Instead, we both unconsciously slowed our pace. Tsinghua or Peking University? I broke the silence. Either is fine, he replied softly. As long as what? Zhou Mingyuan shook his head. It's nothing. What about you? Any preference? I want to study applied mathematics, I said excitedly. In my previous life, I've always been very interested in mathematical modeling. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Then Tsinghua is more suitable. Their mathematical modeling team is very strong. What about you? I pressed. If there were no other considerations, which one would you choose? Zhou Mingyuan pondered for a moment. Tsinghua. Because, why? Because it's closer to your home, he said softly, then quickly turned his face away, his ears turning a transparent shade of red. My heart skipped a beat, then began to race. What does this answer mean? We walked silently like this to the entrance of my building, the air thick with a sweet tension. See you tomorrow, Zhou Mingyuan said in a low voice, turning to leave. Wait, I called out to him. My dad is being discharged from the hospital tomorrow. My mom said she wants to invite you over for dinner. To express our gratitude. He paused for a moment, then nodded. Okay, 5 in the afternoon. He paused. Good night, Song Xiaoyu. Watching his retreating figure, I touched my flushed cheek, a surge of unprecedented anticipation welling up in my heart. Tomorrow, perhaps I could hear that long-hidden answer from his lips about the past life, about the photograph, about why he always appeared when I needed him most, and my own feelings seemed to be growing clearer and clearer. Wrong tense again, I pointed at Zhou Mingyuan's English test paper. The clause after "by the time we arrived" should use the past perfect tense. Zhou Mingyuan furrowed his brow, the lamplight reflecting off his glasses. Why? Because it's a past before the past. I drew a timeline on the scratch paper. Our arrival is a past point in time, and their leaving happened before we arrived, so it should be had left. He nodded thoughtfully and corrected his answer. Sunlight slanted in through the library window, falling on his focused profile and outlining a soft silhouette. 2 months have passed since the math competition, and the college entrance exam is now in its final sprint. Zhou Mingyuan and I practically live in the library every day. He helps me tackle the toughest math problems, and I help him improve his weak spots in English. This model of tacit mutual assistance has steadily boosted both our grades. Take a break. Zhou Mingyuan glanced at his watch. We had been studying for 3 hours straight. I nodded and stretched. Outside the window, the plane trees had grown lush and green. The early summer breeze drifted in, carrying a faint scent of flowers. Zhou Mingyuan took 2 oranges from his backpack and handed one to me. Ever since having dinner at my place last time, he seemed less reserved, occasionally bringing small snacks to share. My dad said your stent surgery was very successful, I said casually while peeling the orange. Is your mom feeling better? Zhou Mingyuan's fingers paused for a moment. It's an old issue. It needs long-term care. I vaguely remembered hearing in my past life that Zhou Mingyuan's mother was in poor health, but I wasn't clear on the specifics. Whenever this topic came up, he always brushed it off lightly. By the way, Zhou Mingyuan changed the subject. Lin Shuyuan came to see me yesterday. I almost choked on an orange. What did he want with you? To apologize. Zhou Mingyuan adjusted his glasses. He said he misunderstood me before and wished us happiness. Happiness, my eyes widened. He thinks we're. The tips of Zhou Mingyuan's ears turned slightly red, I explained, but he didn't seem to believe it. I couldn't help but laugh. In my past life, Lin Shuyuan was always aloof and superior. Now he actually took the initiative to apologize and even misunderstood my relationship with Zhou Mingyuan. Fate is truly strange. Actually, Zhou Mingyuan started to speak, then stopped. It's nothing. He shook his head and changed the subject. After the mock exam next week, Teacher Jing wants to see us, said it's to discuss our college applications. I knew that wasn't what he originally intended to say, but I didn't press further. During this time, I'd become increasingly able to read Zhou Mingyuan's implied meanings, just as he can always detect my unspoken thoughts. In the last mock exam before the college entrance exam, I ranked 12th in the grade, while Zhou Mingyuan remained firmly in first place. Our homeroom teacher, Mr. Li, was so happy he couldn't close his mouth, saying our class might produce 2 students for Tsinghua and Peking University this year. Song Xiaoyu, Lin Shuyuan stopped me at the school gate after class. Can we talk alone for a moment? I glanced at Zhou Mingyuan not far away. He nodded at me, signaling he would leave first. Lin Shuyuan led me to the old locust tree in the corner of the campus, the very place where I used to wait for him to finish playing basketball in my past life. Now, the shade of the tree remains the same, but my state of mind is completely different. First, congratulations on your excellent results in the mock exam. He scratched his head, showing a slightly awkward smile. Second, I want to formally apologize. I waited quietly for him to continue. During the first and second years of high school, I actually knew you liked me. He looked down at the ground, but I enjoyed the feeling of being pursued and deliberately kept you at arm's length. It was very immature. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the leaves, casting dappled shadows on his face. Only then did I notice that the once dashing and spirited campus heartthrob now had faint lines of weariness at the corners of his eyes. The situation with Su Ting made me reflect a lot too, he said with a bitter smile. I actually let her lead me around by the nose. How stupid. It's all in the past, I said softly. We all have our immature moments. You've changed a lot. He looked up, his gaze sincere. Not your appearance, but the whole aura you give off. There's a light in your eyes now. I didn't know how to respond to such an assessment, so I changed the subject. How are your preparations for the college entrance exam going? All right, I guess. As a sports specialty student, the requirements aren't that high. He shrugged. I might go to Shanghai University of Sport. We chatted for a bit about the college entrance exam and future plans, and the atmosphere was unexpectedly harmonious. As we were about to leave, Lin Shuyuan suddenly said, Zhou Mingyuan is a good guy, much better than me. I instinctively wanted to explain, but found I had no explanation. What exactly was my relationship with Zhou Mingyuan? Friends, partners, or the way he looks at you? Lin Shuyuan chuckled, is exactly the same as the way I look at the campus bell. My face flushed instantly, and I hurriedly said goodbye and left. When I reached the school gate, I found that Zhou Mingyuan was actually still waiting for me, leaning against the plane tree by the gate, holding a vocabulary book in his hand. Finished talking, he closed the book, asking as if casually. Yeah, I nodded, my heartbeat still unsettled from Lin Shuyuan's words. He said, he wished us good luck on the college entrance exam. Zhou Mingyuan seemed to see through my lie but considerately didn't press further. We walked side by side toward the bus stop. The June breeze lifted the hem of his shirt, gently brushing against my arm, stirring my heart like a feather. During the 2 days of the college entrance exam, the weather was unusually clear. My mom specifically took time off to accompany me, while my dad was responsible for drop-offs and pickups. After each subject, I could see their expectant eyes at the school gate. When the final English exam ended, I walked out of the examination hall, squinting against the glaring sunlight. Outside the school gate, the crowd was massive, yet I spotted Zhou Mingyuan at a glance. He stood at the edge of the crowd, his white shirt slightly damp with sweat, holding 2 bottles of ice water. How was it? He handed me a bottle. Easier than the mock exams. I unscrewed the bottle cap and took a big gulp. How about you? Not bad. He adjusted his glasses, a slight smile curling at the corner of his mouth. The last reading passage was on the topic you predicted. We exchanged a knowing smile and walked toward the bus stop in silent agreement, neither of us bringing up the subject of checking answers, the college entrance exam was over. Regardless of the outcome, we had both done our best. Back home, my parents had prepared a lavish dinner to celebrate. At the table, Dad made an exception and drank a little wine, his face flushed. Xiaoyu, no matter how you did on the exam, I'm proud of you. Those words made my nose sting. In my previous life, my father never got to see me take the college entrance exam, let alone have the chance to say such a thing. Dad, did the doctor say you could drink? I deliberately put on a stern face. Just for today, an exception, Dad said with a hearty laugh. By the way, how did your classmate Zhou do? Probably well. I poked at the rice in my bowl. He's always been ranked first in the grade. That kid is quite nice, Mom suddenly said. Steady, reliable, and polite. I almost choked on my food. Mom, we're just ordinary classmates who study together every day, walk you home, and bring you fruit, Mom teased. Your mother isn't blind yet. I buried my head in my food, pretending not to hear, but the warmth on my face gave me away. The days after the college entrance exam suddenly became leisurely. Zhou Mingyuan and I still met often, sometimes at the library, sometimes in the park, and occasionally even went to see a movie. We talked about math, the future, and all sorts of wild ideas, but tacitly avoided the most sensitive topic, our feelings for each other. At the end of June, the college entrance exam scores were released. With trembling hands, I entered my exam admission ticket number, and a number that made me scream appeared on the screen. 689 points, top 50 in the province. The phone rang almost immediately. It was Zhou Mingyuan. 723, he said briefly, unable to hide the joy in his voice. Oh my God, the top scorer, I exclaimed. Not sure yet, maybe, he chuckled softly. What about you? 689. I jumped around the room excitedly. That's over 20 points higher than my estimate. Congratulations, he said gently. I knew you could do it. The following days were filled with various recruitment calls and interviews. Zhou Mingyuan unsurprisingly became the provincial top scorer in science, and the admissions offices of Tsinghua and Peking University almost came to blows trying to recruit him. Although I wasn't as dazzling as him, I also received invitations from several top universities. In the end, Zhou Mingyuan chose the Department of Mathematics at Tsinghua University, while I decided to attend the Guanghua School of Management at Peking University. The two schools are only separated by a street, an arrangement we tacitly understood. Why not choose Tsinghua too? Teacher Jing asked me curiously. You two worked so well together. I wanted to try a different environment, I said with a smile, not revealing the real reason. Appropriate distance can make a relationship healthier. A lesson I learned at a painful cost in my past life. On graduation day, the sun was shining brightly. Standing in line wearing my school uniform skirt, I looked at the familiar campus as if a lifetime had passed. A year ago, I was still that foolish girl madly in love. Now, I was about to enter China's top university, surrounded by people who genuinely appreciated me. Song Xiaoyu, a familiar yet strange voice came from behind. I turned around and saw Su Ting standing there, wearing exquisite makeup that couldn't hide the weariness in her eyes. Can we talk? She asked, biting her lip, holding a pink letter in her hand. I followed her to a corner, keeping a wary distance. Since our last public conflict, she had taken a long leave and had hardly been seen at school. I came to apologize. Su Ting handed me the letter. I'm going to study in Australia, and before I leave, I wanted to say a proper goodbye to you. I took the letter but didn't open it immediately. Why the sudden decision to go abroad? My dad thinks I have no face left to stay here. She smiled bitterly. Since that incident, no one wants anything to do with me, even Lin Shouyuan has blocked me. I watched her in silence. The grudges from our past life were settled. There was no more hatred in my heart, but going back to how things were was impossible. I wish you success in your studies, I finally said, my tone calm yet distant. Su Ting's eyes reddened. Can we still be friends, Su Ting? I looked directly into her eyes. Some wounds cannot be erased. I don't hate you, but I can't trust you again either. She lowered her head, tears falling onto the concrete ground, spreading into dark stains. I was really jealous of you. Even though you started from a lower point, you could easily get everything I wanted. Not easily, I corrected softly. I put an effort you couldn't imagine. After the graduation ceremony, Zhou Mingyuan waited for me at the school gate. He wore his neat school uniform, a top graduate badge pinned to his chest, gleaming in the sunlight. Did you get the admission letter? I asked. He nodded, taking out an exquisite envelope from his school bag. Tsinghua University, Department of Mathematics, Then he produced another small envelope, and this one. I opened it curiously. Inside were a bank card and a note. Scholarship deposited, 50,000 yuan. That much, I exclaimed, my eyes widening in surprise. A provincial reward for the top scorer, Zhou Mingyuan said, revealing a rare, bright smile. I'd like to treat you to a meal, to celebrate. That evening, he took me to the city's highest revolving restaurant. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city's lights spread out below us. Zhou Mingyuan had changed out of his school uniform, wearing a simple white shirt and black trousers, yet he looked more captivating than anyone in formal attire. To the future, he raised his glass of juice. We were both still underage, unable to drink alcohol. To the future, I gently clinked my glass against his, my heart racing. After dinner, he walked me home. The summer night breeze brushed against our faces, carrying the scent of gardenias. We talked about summer vacation plans and university arrangements, yet both carefully skirted around the topic that was on the verge of being spoken aloud. I'm going to Beijing at the end of August, Zhou Mingyuan suddenly said. Tsinghua's military training starts a week earlier than Peking University's. Oh, I felt inexplicably downcast. Then, see you in Beijing. He nodded, his expression unclear in the night. In the blink of an eye, it was late August, with only a week left before university started. I was busy packing my luggage and buying daily necessities, yet I always felt something was missing in my heart. Since that dinner, Zhou Mingyuan had suddenly become very busy, and the number of times we met could be counted on one hand. Xiaoyu, my mother helped me pack my luggage. Haven't seen classmate Zhou around lately. He is preparing to go to Beijing early. I pretended to focus on folding clothes, said he wants to get familiar with the environment. I see. My mother gave me a meaningful look and didn't ask further. On August 30th, my phone suddenly rang. It was Zhou Mingyuan. Can you come out for a moment? His voice was a little tense. I'll wait for you at the school gate. Now, aren't you going to Beijing tomorrow? That's why I need to see you today, he insisted. I quickly changed into a light blue dress and ran out with my phone. The late summer sun was still scorching, making it hard to open my eyes. Zhou Mingyuan stood under the old locust tree at the entrance of the high school, his white shirt slightly damp with sweat, holding a delicate box in his hand. Seeing me, he visibly relaxed, and the corners of his mouth curved upwards. Why so suddenly? Before I could finish, he opened the box. Inside was an exquisite silver badge, engraved with mathematical symbols and a small inscription, to my Pai, the never-ending love, Song Xiaoyu. Zhou Mingyuan took a deep breath, his voice trembling slightly. I like you. I have for a very, very long time. My heart nearly stopped, and all I could hear was the rush of blood in my ears. I know this is sudden. He adjusted his glasses, his hand trembling slightly. If you feel it's not appropriate, we can still be friends. How long? I interrupted him. You said a long, long time ago. How long is that? Zhou Mingyuan was silent for a moment, then took out a photo from his wallet. It was of me when I first started high school, exactly the same as the one I found in his notebook before. From the moment I saw you standing at the school gate, grinning foolishly, he said softly, in this life and the last, nothing has changed. Last life. My eyes widened, my voice almost choked. You too. Zhou Mingyuan nodded, his gaze gentle yet sorrowful. I remember everything. I remember how you followed Lin Shuyuan, how you neglected your studies. I remember you lying alone in the hospital at the end. Tears blurred my vision. So that's how it was. So he had always remembered, always watched, always loved. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I choked out. After rebirth, I wanted to give you space and freedom. He carefully wiped away my tears. Watching you change little by little and find your own worth was more important than anything. I could no longer hold back and threw myself into his arms. His heartbeat, transmitted through his shirt, was fast and heavy. I like you too. I mumbled against his chest, maybe not for as long as you, but just as seriously. Zhou Mingyuan's arms wrapped tightly around me, as if embracing a treasure he had lost and found. The summer breeze blew, and locust flowers fell like a gentle snow upon us. So, does this mean you agree? He asked cautiously. I raised my head, looking at the boy who had silently protected me in both this life and the last. I stood on tiptoe and gently kissed his cheek. Of course, my Mr. Top student. Zhou Mingyuan's face instantly turned red to his ears, but he gathered his courage, lowered his head, and kissed my forehead in return. Then, my Ms. Pai, are you willing to explore this unknown new world with me?